So, just a couple of minutes after 7 o'clock, I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Can I have an acceptance of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any walk-ins this evening? I'd like to just recognize a couple of special guests in the audience, former Selectman Jim Pollard and State Rep Jim Cantwell. And then we'll just move on to the report of the Town Administrator. Patricia.
Hi, thank you. I'm not going to talk too much tonight.
I wouldn't recommend it, yeah.
But I have asked Sean and Kevin to come and give the board an update. The Drought Management Task Force met today, and they have the latest information.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good evening. Great, yourselves.
We have good news?
Always
Or at
good
least
news.
better news?
Always good news. I can start right off. Hurricane Matthew is expected to hit New England over the weekend, so that'll bring 2 or 3 inches of rain. I don't know if that's good or bad. Every time a hurricane's coming up, we get concerned, obviously. Water supply, the Water Department continues to supply town's water exclusively from the wells. 2 inches of rainfall over the weekend edged up the reservoir to -78, which brings us up to 24% full. The level is increasing. Last October, just so everybody knows, we were at 62% in the reservoir, so it shows a difference of what we've had this year. The groundwater levels at the wells remain somewhat depressed. Water Department's carefully monitoring them and keeping the tank levels a little lower, like we talked about in the last meeting, and that's been working out fine. It stabilized the water on the wells. There's less fluctuation. Our daily water usage consumption in the past 7 days was 2% higher than previous weeks. The average daily usage is 1,143,857 gallons per day, or an equivalent to 64 gallons per person. Conservation by our residents and businesses remain the single biggest factor that'll help us get through this drought. Helpful water-saving tips can be sent in by residents to conserve water at Scituate.ma.gov. Violations this past week, there was one on Seagate Circle, one on Indian Trail, one on Greenfield Lane, one on Central Ave, and one on Front Street. There were 4, we got the 5th one just a little while ago, so it bumped us up to 5, and there might even be a 6th one that we just found out about.
Front Street, was it a business, Front Street, or?
I believe it was a business.
It was a business, I believe. This time of year, people begin to haul boats out of the harbor. Please remember, do not use the municipal potable water to wash down your hauled vessels. If you want to reduce water further, there's some helpful tips on a YouTube that's going to be coming out tomorrow with the update. Future resiliency, expansion of the reservoir, we're expecting to hear in late October if the town's grant applications for funds for raising the reservoir are approved. For the satellite well, we've been talking about at 22. We met with the DEP last week and discussed the installation. This is the well that had the partial collapse last year, and we're looking to go to town meeting for funding, and we'll be talking about that later tonight. Dolan Wellfield, an engineering firm, has been contacted to help the town conduct testing and obtain permits for the field. This well is probably 2 to 3 years out with all the permitting. The permitting is a very long process. Transfer station will soon have rain barrels that we'll be selling through the website. More to come on that. That'll be coming out as a web advisory or an email. And
Kevin, just to interrupt on that, I know you've mentioned that like for a month now. We're getting down to the fall. Is it coming out, or is it something that we should probably advise people that it's going to come into the spring? I'm not trying to
probably,
push on it.
no, not at all.
I'm saying,
The-
I just don't want to keep telling people it's coming out,
Nope,
coming out.
not a problem at all. What we have is the water department's actually going, somebody will be driving up in a truck to pick them up in Hyde Park. They came in today, we didn't have the manpower to go pick them up. And then we'll be establishing the way to purchase them online. We figured we'd have it all set up to purchase online. You'd get a number from your online account, and then hopefully pick it up at the transfer station. We're just finishing all the details with the purchasing, and I'd like to say by the end of the week, it's going to be all set to go. So that's a game plan for that, but
There
I
was a
didn't want...
month lead time on the barrels.
It wasn't, it wasn't...
I just want to tell people so that at least they know it's not like going to be a month, because we keep telling them, so it's happening very shortly. Perfect.
With any luck, as I said, tomorrow we'll have them picked up, if I have the manpower, depending on what's going on. So we plan on grabbing them. And the Department of Environmental Protection plans to launch a drug crisis management task force this week, and we'll link to their website for additional conservation tips and water supply management ideas. And that's pretty much the water update, if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, did you mention the level of the wells? I know we always talk about the reservoir. What's the chance of us depleting, the output of the wells to a level that they could sustain?
I'll let you answer that, I know how.
Yep, we are strictly monitoring that on a daily basis. We take well level readings. I believe I did send an email with some information about that. I have some more here as well, if you'd like it. It just shows you the drawdown in the wells in terms of how many feet above the intake of the pump, how much water is above it. And it shows you, to give you perspective, it shows you where we were at January of 2016 as well. So you can kind of see a difference. You can see how much lower we are now compared to back then. But we do monitor them every day. We actually made some adjustments late last week and gained some production from one well and lost a little bit from another one because it was just getting too low. But
So you want to tell us, or you want to hand us that paper?
yep, we can, so.
So you actually measure them, Sean, in feet, or you measure them gallons per minute, gallons per day?
We take all those readings, actually, gallons per minute, gallons per day. And
Do you want that? I can share Sean's. Do you need one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just look at it. I think I have it on email anyway.
So these are feet above pump pipe?
That's correct. So if you look at September 30th, 2016, well 18B, 8.7 feet above. Typically, we like to keep 10 feet above if we can, but that one is holding steady at 8.7 and not dropping, so we're just monitoring that one.
Why
Well-
such little change on well 10, Sean?
Well 10,
Almost
that's the
same,
one that we
right?
just recently,
Oh,
well
okay.
11 was pumping far down to a point that I was getting a little bit nervous, so we decided to reduce the flow on that by closing a valve right at the well, and then we opened up 10, and that 10 typically was much higher than that before. And it was kind of illustrating that there was a lot more to be had. It was capable of more.
Right.
So we're taking more from 10 now and a little bit less from 11 and trying to let that come back up again.
Where's well 19? I'm sorry.
Well 19 is off of, well 19, well, I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to the system.
19 is off
19 is right,
123, right?
19's right on 3A, across from here.
Across, okay, that's the one across the street we just did the generator on. Right across the street, up to the left near the gardens.
Yeah, you can see that one has a considerable drop.
Right.
And now they all do have safeties on them as well. If they drop to an unsafe level, it shuts off automatically, and we get notified. We get an alarm, we get notified about that.
Excuse my ignorance, but, so if it drops, so there's just constant water flowing
Correct.
into this, you're plugged into the aquifer.
Mhm.
So if it goes, like, when it starts dropping, does it drop quickly because you've hit some sort of threshold?
No, it's usually very gradual. What happens when you first start a well, it drops very quickly for the first 24 hours, and then it usually settles out. It usually reaches a point where you've reached the capacity of the well, and it just sustains. Now, in the times of drought, it just slowly drops, and you have to monitor that just to make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble.
So in your opinion, we don't have a problem with the wells right now?
We are running tight, I would say, on the wells, but we are keeping an eye on them, and we have sufficient supply right now.
It must be, and it's difficult to really figure how much water is there, right? I mean, all you know is you have a rough idea of what the usage is, how much the wells are dropping, but we really don't really know how much water there is, right? I mean, from the aquifer itself.
And it's not apples to apples when you look at the wells
Right.
and you look at the drawdowns, because some of these wells, 19, for example, that's sort of indicating to me that it's time to redevelop the well.
Okay,
There's more water available outside of it. It's just slowly starting to get plugged up so it can't draw it in
right.
the same way it used to.
The only reason I say that, Sean, is that obviously we don't know a lot about, at least certainly I don't know a lot about how the wells operate, but as I'm looking at the note here, it says the level at well 11 is higher only because we just turned the flow down because the level was getting too low. But then I look over at well 19, which to me seems very low, but is it? I mean...
It is. And we did turn that down, I don't know if we turned that down last week or if it was 2 weeks ago that we turned
Right.
that one down a little bit as well.
Okay.
It happens to be one of our higher producing wells, so we
Right.
keep and it also has a very good safety on it to shut down as well, so.
Yeah, we're just trying to understand, you know.
Yep. I mean, you can, looking at historical data, during another serious drought many years ago, I believe it was in the 60s, they were forced to go as far as 1 foot above the intakes
Wow.
in order to get by. Certainly, we're not looking at anything that extreme right now. And I think all our conservation efforts, have been a great help in getting us to this point and hopefully through it.
Right. Okay.
Kevin, one other quick question for DPW. Someone was asking me the other day about, how we usually do the electronics day, where people can come in and throw their electronics away, we get the truck in there. Is that planned for the future?
What we usually did is, we were able to get some grants, we applied for some grants for it. There was, certain companies had to provide so much waste, or accept so much waste, and we were able to get it for free. We haven't had any of those grants this year that have come up. We've just done it, if they're available, we apply for the grants and jump on it, but we didn't set anything specifically aside for that this year.
Okay. Can you look and see how much it would cost to do it?
Sure.
Anything else? You guys have anything else? I mean, you pretty much, as far as, project updates, you pretty much, I know we're working a lot on water and stuff like that right now, so.
I can hit you with a couple quick things. With the water projects are ongoing, we're putting them in dry, and as we get more water, we'll be looking to
Flush them and...
to come back and flush them up and chlorinate the lines as they go. We don't want to add water to them now or anything, because if they're going to be sitting, it'll be, you risk a biofilm possibly building up in the line, which could be problematic later on. But we're still chugging along. We'll have another job going out in January. If we came down your street and put a new water line and then paved over it, unfortunately, we're going to be back. You're not on the new line yet. You will be sometime in the near future, because we're waiting to energize those lines and come in and do the services.
Good chance that won't be until the spring, I imagine, right?
We'll see how things look with the water. I mean, with any luck, we'll get a lot of rain this coming weekend, and
Right.
maybe hopefully be in a better position in a few weeks. We'll see what happens.
I just had one quick question as far as having sort of the same as the water lines, but the roads themselves as they've been paved, if we get into that situation, you and I talked about it earlier, but to make sure that the roads are okay going into the winter for snow plows and...
We'll be monitoring on which roads we can do. Some of the areas that we did do, like Captain Pierce Road and a couple of the other streets where the services are complete, we will be doing some paving and some patching, and redo those trenches and clean them up. Some of the other things, some of the other roads, we're going to have to look at it and see how well the paving is. The contractor that's out there now is using a paving box and doing a really nice job with the paving. Hopefully, we don't have any major settlement, but we'll have to monitor how that is, because I want to avoid any change orders I can with him, because we're altering his schedule by not allowing him to complete the pipe.
Right, okay.
And we stalled on him with that. And Sean McCarthy did come in, and we brought one sample of water pipe we just recently pulled out, if anybody.
I'd love everybody to see that.
So, we've got a lot of pipe. We've already replaced, I think, 78,000 feet, but we still have some of this in the system, which was pulled up
I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but that's...
last week, so it's still going.
How old is that pipe? It doesn't look...
1922.
Really?
Yep.
Outside looks
One of the
pretty
newer
good.
ones.
The outside looks good, but it's an undersized pipe, and it's just, I mean,
Look at the inside from this.
you know, it's tough.
Give you a good idea why you
It
have.
does, Jim.
Sean, you were in what, third grade?
Wise guy. I'm not the oldest one up here.
So,
Can you spin that around so we can see, what's the other side look like?
Oh, that's the good side.
Oh, just as bad.
the other side actually looks worse, unfortunately.
So that's the brown and the brown water.
One of the reasons, yeah, one of the
So
main
the
reasons.
pressure gets high and it's forcing through there and it just takes all that with it.
What road was that taken from?
First down.
Down by the,
I'd have to double check.
Probably my street.
First
Down.
Parish and Grove.
yeah.
The line is still in service, but that's one of the lines we'd look to get switched
Yeah.
over by the end, by,
That was
you know,
one of the ones this summer, though, right? That you just
This came out like
took
a
out?
week ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
Yeah, project.
we want to switch that over. And believe it or not, the pipe in front of St. Mary's that we had all that problem with, I know everybody was looking at it, it was settling and we had water leaking out. It was actually worse than this, and there were pinholes in it, and that was from 1901. So that took a while to get squared away too, and that was tough also. Those are bigger pieces. I didn't bring any in because they had the big old joints.
Well, that's a
and
pretty
stuff.
good example right there, so.
So,
right.
any other
No.
questions? or-
I just have
Thank
one,
you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one road question. Are you still going to do Cudworth to Elm? Because I thought that was on your plan for the spring.
It is, yes.
Okay, I just was curious about that.
Yep, we have, they've started actually work on that.
They did,
And for the
okay.
road projects, what we'll be doing is...
I mean, First Parish from Cudworth to Elm, that piece.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was...
What we're going to do is we'll grind that section, we're going to grind the top section out, we're going to do an overlay, so it's a lot better. It'll be a temporary fix, but we have to redo the drainage in that area.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to be a future project down the road. There's just too much activity to rip that road up at the same time and get everything going on with all the water we have happening.
Did you just say we're going to grind another road this fall? Did you just say we're going to grind another road this fall?
In front of First Parish, over near where AJ lives, in that area there, where the road isn't really, really rough.
That's been terrible.
We're going to run a skim coat over that to stabilize that area there, and I think that's what Mara's talking about. We're going to put a skim coat over that that'll get us by.
Anything will...
And then
Yeah.
we'll get through a couple years with that. In the meantime, we got to put a plan together and redo all the drainage in there. The drainage is in horrible shape, and then we'd have to rebuild the whole road and the sidewalk, just like we did on some of the other streets. But it'll be a little,
A little better.
it'll look better and it'll get us through for what we need for now. But, no, I don't think, no plans to grind any more roads and
All right.
start up now. It's getting too late.
Late, right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
One last thing, Mike. I just want to clarify, 'cause I spoke to Kevin earlier this week, that little island by Elm Street.
At Cudworth, Elm and Countryway.
Actually, did you pave that in front of the gates there? That looked new.
We put some mix down. What we did is, we put a binder course down, which is reshaping the roadway, and
That was good.
then we'll top it out.
So you're going to paint that and make that yellow so that people don't drive over it. But the reason why we had to put it there, which I was a little unclear, is the sidewalk,
Distance.
Kevin was saying the distance needs a handicap
Yeah.
place to stop, which I wasn't aware of.
It's a rest area, and at first I wasn't aware of it either, because with all the feedback we were getting from it, we were almost ready to remove it. But a little more research,
Kevin and I met out there a week ago tonight at 8:15, and it was dark. I mean, we made sure it was dark, and it was very, very difficult to see that island.
Yeah.
and it was just, I stopped by, I went over there to take a look at it at night, because I was wondering what the problem was, and no sooner did I get out of my truck, Marty was there. But one of the other things we found out is the light that's over that is out. So we're putting that light to get that light up quicker in the light replacement process, which it might even be done now, I don't know. So, thank you very much, sorry to take up
Thank
so
you.
much time.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Kevin.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have a discussion vote on Cushing Road. Do we have a backup on this at all?
I
mean, I'm
provided it
from-
to Lorraine.
Just a letter. That's
Okay.
all I got.
I'm sorry?
A letter?
No, this is the information I sent you yesterday.
I mean, I'm familiar with it.
A letter.
Want Jim to come up and explain?
Representative Cantwell's here on
Yeah,
that
Representative
issue,
Cantwell.
since you don't have any material update for you. And
Come on up, Jim.
and Jim, you can
Oh, no.
talk, no, it's okay, Lorraine.
Sorry, we can do it.
We'll be quick.
So, many of you know, with Representative Cantwell's help, that we've been working with Kevin Cafferty, and some folks to get Cushing Road repaired. And after many months of trying to determine and prove who owned the road and who didn't, it was determined that the state indeed owns the road. So Jim helped facilitate a site visit there a couple of weeks ago with folks from DCR, and I'll hand it over to you, Representative.
Sure. Tricia, just relatively brief, but you all, over the last few years, were bringing to my attention that we have a former Chief Justice with the Supreme Court who's buried here in town. It's a small park that a few years ago was really overgrown, and a number of Boy Scouts. Marty, I'm sure you've been a Boy Scout before. The Boy Scouts went out and cleaned it all up. But the issue, the only difference with the town administrators is the state was never saying that it was owned by the state, and the state said we didn't own it, town said we didn't own it. So we had multiple times of bringing people from DCR down and had them go way back. We were talking with town council. The compromise, the position is the state is going to take responsibility. DCR was just here, and you all know because we had Mass Dot here as well. So we'll have an interagency transfer. Mass Department of Transportation will come. We'll do that entire stretch. We'll bring it up to our local specific requirements. Kevin Cafferty was fantastic. So the most recent meeting was, we had State Senator Pat O'Connor here, DCR folks here, Mass Dot had come. Really had a large group. Nick Gove is the Assistant Commissioner from DCR, and Mike Harris. I want to thank them publicly because they helped to really break this this logjam. So it'll be next spring. That entire road will be done, and then I think the vote for tonight is just for the Selectmen's opinion to go forward, and thereafter to have it accepted because at town meeting. That's correct. So.
Sure. I mean, it sounds good to me.
Does everyone know where it is? I mean, we know where it is, but,
Yeah.
well, all right.
You guys know where it is?
So the roads, yeah, Tony used to live there.
Some of the most famous residents. We have Chief Justice Cushing and Tony Vignani actually lived right there.
This is a road that's off of Neilgate, yeah, so people understand, and the road is abysmal. It's riddled with potholes, and it's been an ongoing problem for a lot of the residents who live there. And actually, I've seen some people who actually have had problems getting mortgages to be able to buy houses up there.
Right.
So this is something that's important, so that now people can identify who actually owns the road. It's actually the state right now who owns it, and the intent is by updating the road and improving it, then we will take it over as a town, and it will become an official public way, town-owned, we'll be responsible for it. But I think more importantly is, it also opens up so that people can go up and see this smallest park in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and very few people know that it exists. And so I think it's great, Jim, that you're able to do this, because there have been a lot of people who've been complaining, and a lot of it has been the state saying, no, it's not ours, it's yours, and the state obviously would like to try to pawn that off because of the costs associated with fixing it.
Right.
But thank heavens, with your help, we've been successful, because you've been working on this for a number of years.
It's been several
Really
years.
appreciate all your help.
Yeah, and Senator O'Connor coming down as well. It was definitely with all of your attention, time and again, because there were a number of residents who were told when they were buying homes that it was going to be fixed just in a matter of time. It was unfair that they were being told that, but I'm glad that really, and Kevin, by the way, too, Tricia, not only doing a great job with the state when they came down to make the case, but then to give us a tour around. It definitely is a good success story. So I just wanted to come and say thank you and not take any further time, because my good friend Larry Creason's here to talk to you a little bit later. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, thank you.
Chair, do you want a motion?
Yeah, could I have a motion,
Yeah,
please?
Sure. Does anybody else have any other?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is that there's a beautiful little park up there that's actually a cemetery, and there's all kinds of walking trails back there as well that go down to the area. So and there's a place to park vehicles too for 2 or 3 cars to park on that little circle.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Move that the Board of Selectmen endorse and support the efforts of the Massachusetts Department of Recreation to repair and improve Cushing Road, and upon completion of improvements to the roadway by DCR to the town's road standards, and provided that the work is complete, the Board of Selectmen will place an article on the warrant for the April annual town meeting for acceptance of the road as a public way.
Second?
Second by Mr. Vignani. Further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I have one more item, Mr. Chair, if I may, a couple of personnel updates. Last week, Pam Avatabli received her certification as a certified treasurer. That's a certification that requires a number of years to obtain. Treasurers go to school and have to take a test, so Pam was here last week because she probably thought I would tell you, and I forgot. So she's not here, but it's memorialized in posterity, I guess, on our cable thing. The other thing is, many of you know, the FY17 budget created a deputy chief of police position. We work with the police union very cooperatively to develop the criteria for application for that, to test candidates through an assessment center. As the board's aware, all command positions for both fire and police go through a pretty intensive assessment center process. We completed that process in August, and the individual that I am going to tell you I've appointed is a familiar face. He joined the police department in July of 2002. He became the traffic enforcement officer in 2008. He became a sergeant in 2013. He became a lieutenant in 2014. He possesses a bachelor's degree from UMass Boston in law enforcement, and he's here tonight with his wife Nancy and his children, and I'm very pleased to tell you I've appointed Mark Thompson as our first deputy chief of police.
Congratulations, Mark.
Congratulations, sir.
Well deserved, you are there.
Great job. Congratulations. You want to say anything?
No, I'd just like to thank, obviously, the town administrator. It's just been a great process. I'm really looking forward to the coming years ahead, obviously with the building, but with the new department that we have and all the new men and women that are on the department, it's a great opportunity going forward. So the chief has been fantastic, and over the years, all the opportunities that I've had. So looking forward to working with him and seeing all the things that come ahead. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark, you deserve it. You do a great job for the town.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yep,
Thank you.
Great job.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion of vote of a special event application, the Scituate Wind Turbine Tour, Larry Cretion, Mass Energy Consumer Alliance.
I can take those, I'll pass them down there. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you, Larry?
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Certainly.
I'd like to explain briefly what we're asking for. My organization, the Mass Energy Consumers Alliance, is a nonprofit organization that's been around since 1982. We have a mission to make energy more affordable and environmentally sustainable. For many years, we've been strong advocates of wind power because it's the most affordable zero-emission source of energy that there is. When we heard that Palmer Capital wanted to develop the project in cooperation with the town, we committed to a long-term contract to purchase the renewable energy certificates. So we're part of the program to bring that project to bear, and we think it's a great project. And so we buy renewable energy certificates from about a dozen projects in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and what we like to do is, whenever possible, is to have an event where public event where people can come learn about wind power, and we explain what it means for our program, how it works for the community, that sort of thing. So we have picked October 15th as a date to have an event where we're reaching out to members who buy renewable energy from us. So we buy the renewable energy certificates wholesale, we sell them retail to consumers who want to support wind power. And so on October 15th, we have, using Eventbrite, I think we have 50 or 60 people who've signed up. What we'd like to do is have them go to Conservation Park in Scituate, park there. We think that there's adequate parking for that. We'll have a little bit of a brief speaking session where we explain to people about how wind power is working at this site and in general, so that they get a picture of what's happening in renewable energy. Then we'll take we'll have a table and with some coffee and donuts, and that's the only refreshments we're going to have. very much a crowd of all ages. It's a great event for little kids and for people of all ages. We'll walk along the sidewalk down to the Go Green Landscape Supply facility, and we'll meet probably Sumal Shah from one of the developers of the project. He'll be there, and he'll provide some more technical background than we offer. I don't think I'll be there that day. I would love to, but I think I have to coach a soccer game, and I'll have staff there who will be interpreting the event along with Sumal Shah, who I think you know. And so I think we'll probably have about 20 to 30 cars, 50 or 60 people. We think it'll be fairly much under control. These are nice folks who just want to learn more about how to make clean energy. So, we do our best to make sure that people are very much aware that the town of Scituate made a strong commitment, and, that what you've done by siting the wind turbine, by entering into a long-term contract, is the kind of stuff we'd like to see, other communities do. And so I suspect we'll have a few people from Scituate at the event, but also people from the South Shore. I wouldn't expect people from Western Mass to drive, but we'll get some folks, and they'll learn more about what they can do in their own communities. Does it make sense?
Time, I'm sorry, did you say?
Yeah. The time is, the event will start at 11, and we're not serving lunch. It will be done in about an hour or two, at the most.
No, I think it's Saturday.
And how will you advertise it? How do folks know to attend?
Primarily through our membership, and we'll do a little bit of social media, Facebook and Twitter. But we have 8,000 members who buy renewable energy from us. We are inviting them all, and if you have if you'd like to, we can forward information to you if you want to pass that along. We'd be happy to have as many as the site will handle. We don't want to overdo it, but we do want to have hopefully with the weather will be good, and we'll have a nice crowd.
Okay. Sounds good.
The only thing I was going to add, Larry, is, by all means, also show them that, our transfer station is a great opportunity to be green, and taking a look at our capped landfill, which we have our solar array on top, which is unusual that most towns don't have, and I think it's something that other communities might be looking at.
Yep.
And I think I'd even note that they can take a look at our golf course and find out that a golf course was industrial, was a big, huge sand pit for years, and that you begin to see what towns can do, and in conjunction with all these things and citing them, and of course the wind turbines. So, there's a lot that the town has been doing the past 15, 20 years, actually, with the golf course, 20 years,
Yep.
that communities can take a look at and say, maybe we can do this in our community in going green. So it's a lot of good things. It's a great opportunity to even go beyond just the turbine and wind technology. But
Absolutely. I'll make a point of that. And I know on the solar, I think you folks were ahead of most cities and towns in the state, but I think a few have learned from your experience, and so I think I know it's good for the city, for the town itself, but I think you also want to have a bigger impact and have people copy you whenever
it
possible.
would be great.
And I think
going green.
it's beginning, people are realizing that if they can just figure out the engineering, that's a great reuse of a site.
Any event, just, you don't have to, but I just think it would be great for other communities that they could utilize it. It's been a benefit to the taxpayers and to the residents of Scituate, so.
Sure, okay, will do.
You need a motion?
Yeah, motion, please.
I guess I need permission.
Move to approve the Scituate Wind Turbine Tour located along the Driftway on October 15th, 2016, from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m.
Second?
Second by Mr. Vignani. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks very much, we promise to be good.
Enjoy.
All right.
Thank you.
Next, we have an interview for a board and committee applicant for the Beach Commission. Who do we have? Let me see.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Just your name and address, if you would, please, and tell us a little bit about why you want to go on the Beach Commission. I'm just trying to find the backup here.
Sure, my name is Anne McCracken. I live at 6 Greenfield Lane in Scituate. I'm a new resident, just bought a house earlier this year, so.
Welcome.
New to the area, thank you. And I've been passionate about the ocean my whole life. Grew up going sailing and windsurfing and kayaking and everything. Most recently, I paddleboard a lot. And I've been involved with Surf Rider, and in Florida, I lived in Florida for about 10 years and rescued marine mammals and dolphins from Miami down to the Keys, or to Key West. So I just want to be involved and get, help, do whatever I can. I live right near Peggotty. I walk there probably 4 days a week and seen all the seaweed that's been there recently, but, from the storms, but, so I just want to do what I can and whatever that is. So, pretty simple.
Can't thank you enough for jumping in so soon, moving into town, so thank you.
I'm obsessed with the ocean and the beaches, so I actually met someone on the commission in the parking lot of Peggotty, and I'm like, oh, there's a beach commission? And she kind of said, yeah, look into it, and so
Good.
there was an opening, and so I said, well, yeah, sure.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
You have any questions?
Lorraine, how many openings are there?
2.
There's 2,
Good.
Good.
right?
So-
Okay, and we're going to be, do you have something, John? You wanna-
No, I was just going to say, it's a new committee that's been started up, I guess you could say, last year, and so, with a lot of opportunity for all the beaches, and so if you enjoy it, which you do, you're going to enjoy working on it, and thank you for stepping up. It's not easy to get involved in the committees, but thank you for stepping up.
absolutely, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
So we're going to be voting on it later in the meeting. You can stay, you're welcome to stay if you want, but you don't have to.
I like to. This is actually really interesting hearing that, so that's okay. I'd
Well,
like
you'll
to-
learn a lot tonight.
Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have some more boards.
Yeah.
You're not careful.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion and vote of a building move, Union Street, Old Country Way, Chick Fagan, I should say. How are you, Chick?
How are you?
Good.
I'm not sure what you have for information. There's a map
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. We have the map, but this is easier to read. Thank you.
and a letter that we have to send out. to
Thanks, Chick.
everybody.
Now, this is the easy move.
Thank you.
So-
Yeah, right,
Right around the corner.
right.
So I'm going to recuse myself because this is directly across from my office, but it's very exciting. So I'll let Chick explain what's going on so everybody can see.
Well, I think I'm not sure what you want to know. The move is going to be about a little over 100 yards. It's going from Fitz's Mill, right across from the storage that we have,
Right.
right around the corner to Old Driftway, Old Country Way.
Okay.
And the history behind it was an old schoolhouse that my great-grandfather went to and my grandfather, so I've always had a little passion for it, and now that I've got it, I'm going to turn it into a microbrewery. So,
Oh, so it's part of the microbrewery.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
that's
this
gonna
is
be
part of
the,
that? Oh, okay.
pardon me?
I didn't realize that.
That's
Yeah.
excellent.
What's
So
going to
the-
happen to the house behind it?
That's going to get torn down.
Okay.
Okay.
That's Jose Vega's old house, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So you're tearing that house down and putting the little building there?
Yes, and then we're going to
Anything
put
gonna
another building in back of that, 42 by 100. It's called the Morton Building, and that's going to actually house the brewery. That's where they make all the beer and the process of that.
So this will just be the brew pub, or the...
Sort of like a-
tasting
Yeah,
room?
I wish I would have brought more on it. I thought it was just about the move, but,
So this will be the tasting...
yeah, they'll have that
And then there'll be a
tasting.
building behind it that houses the actual brewery?
Exactly, and there'll be a vestibule in between, a glass vestibule to tie the two together, because one's a historic building, one's a barn shaped. And we try and architecturally make it look nice, and the planning board, the design review board, everybody's been on board for this, so.
How big is the one behind it again?
42 by 100, 100 deep
Yep.
and 42 wide.
That's a great idea, to move that there into this.
Yeah, I was happy to get it, because,
Yeah.
my house next door it's about 200 years old, and John's building across the street, the same vintage, so to kind of make a little village in itself, a
Yeah.
village in a village, so it's kind of...
Is your house to the right of it?
As you're looking at, yes, on the corner of Stockbridge Road and Country Way, my shop is the barn,
Right.
and the house is,
Was the schoolhouse always there, Chick, or did they move it there?
this will be the fourth move.
Oh, yeah, they used to move houses all the time.
Yeah, and there were 10 of these schoolhouses in Scituate. And it was back when South Scituate was Scituate, Norwell. So there's a nice history at the Red Schoolhouse about the whole school system. The chalkboard's still in there, too.
Cool.
Oh,
Which
Are
is
you going to
kinda-
keep those?
Pardon me?
Are you going to?
Yeah, it'll probably
Try
be in
to
the
keep it.
ladies' room, though, so.
We can.
Chick, what are the dimensions of the schoolhouse? Just,
25 by 35.
okay,
And the overall that goes over the road is going to be 30 by 42. So
okay.
there's plenty of room, and the way they elevate it and wheel it around, it's up in the air right now. It's pretty interesting to see. Sean's probably seen it before, but it's,
No, I haven't, no.
Yeah.
Tony's going to think I probably went there. No, so you really don't have a problem with electrical lines and stuff like that? I know when Steve Litchfield moved his barn from the road, from
Yeah,
Scanzell's
no,
property, that was...
I wouldn't say, well, I have to deal with National Grid. And there's really been not a real program on how to move the building in Scituate, maybe other towns too, so it's been a learning curve. And, but I've hooked up with some nice people in National Grid, and we finally have everybody signed off. And it's just getting a date. Once we get the okay here, I bring that to National Grid, and they'll set a date, which hopefully is in the near future, because
Excellent.
we've lost a lot of time with all the red tape and things like that.
Well, we'll try and,
Is there a reason why we have to have an end date to the move on this? We have, in the motion, it says by November 15th. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because we don't want the authorization sitting out there, and it's going to probably, it could be snowy and icy.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that date, do you think something that,
Yeah, I think it can happen pretty soon. You know,
Okay.
I couldn't say for sure, but the way they're talking, once we get the okay here and everybody else that was signed off, it should be there's probably 5 or 6 wires, they just drop. On Old Country Way, there are no wires, so it's just going down Union Street.
right.
And it's a pretty clean move.
yeah, not too far.
But I remember Stevie's move,
Yeah, it was a challenge.
to say the least.
Right. I just have to say, and, you know, just my business is near Chicks, but, you know, anything he does a very nice job, you know. This is exciting, and thanks for
Thank you.
keeping this in the town. It's, you know, obviously a historical structure, but they're gonna make some changes down there at the old Fitz's Mill, and, just, you know, it's gonna be nice.
I think
Thank
this
you.
will make it, enhance the area.
I'm sure it will. Thanks.
Can I have a motion?
Just an amendment to that, when you move it, make it contingent on all the departmental requirements, like you do for a regular special event.
Move the Board of Selectmen approve a building move from 6 Union Street to 6 Country Way by November 15, 2016, pending approval from all town departments.
Second?
Second by Ms. Curran. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
So my point
4-0.
was, in Rankin, is that the department heads had some conditions, and I just, so,
Okay.
in your approval, so.
So
that's
4-0 with Mr. Danahy abstaining.
Yep.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
To the area, and great to see you restoring that building.
All right, thank you.
Chick, want this back, please?
Yeah, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Sure.
You are welcome, sir. All right.
Thank you.
So next, we have a discussion and vote of the Cranberry Vine Catering and Events, Catherine Hackett and Christy Edgren. Is that right? Did I say that right, I hope?
Yeah, but she had kids to pick up.
Okay, no problem.
Good evening, madam, gentlemen.
So what are you going to do?
We're catering a memorial service.
The first time you've been to the town, I assume, correct?
Right.
I saw that in your things, you're tip certified, and there are some other things I think you submitted, and, which is what we're looking for. I think you have something
Liability.
from the town of Pembroke with the Selectmen, correct?
Yes.
And
We're
you actually had
licensed,
something
insured,
that was fascinating.
certified.
So our big thing is this, you know, obviously, first time here, and that's the reason why I wanted to interview. We're very strict about compliance with pouring and making sure that, you know, you're aware of it, because it's first time in, and, oh, the allergen, that was it. I thought that was great. I appreciate you submitting that, at least I think the board was too, but that's why we wanted to talk to you, because if there's any violation, you'll never be doing it here in the town again, and that's why we want to make sure that we impress upon people the importance to maintaining, you know, a sense that, you know, people aren't there to party and have, obviously, it's a memorial service. That's not the reason why I'm saying it, but just in
I get it.
general, because other people do.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody?
Nope, John covered it.
Great.
Need a motion before you go.
Anyone have that page?
Move to approve a one-day wine and malt license for Cranberry Vine Catering and Events for a memorial service held at the Scituate Maritime Center located at 119 Edward Foster Road on October 15th, 2016, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Second?
Second by Mr. Danahy. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
And we hope you can come back, too.
Thank you.
And then-
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
This is not it.
We're ahead, but we're okay, right? Next, we have a discussion of vote of the 10/19/2016 special town meeting warrant. Tricia, John McCarthy, Kevin Cafferty, Nancy Durfee, Stephen Moe, Patricia Lambert, and Andrea Hunt on the citizens petition.
So do you have the warrant?
We do.
Is there an extra copy?
Sure. There's one in your packet that was in your desk.
There was no package on my desk, unless it's attached to here.
It is.
Oh, great, I got it, thanks. So, we did review these preliminarily twice at your last two meetings.
Yep.
So, tonight is when you actually vote to place the warrant articles on the warrant, and the warrant will be posted tomorrow. Moderator's meeting will be October 10th at 3 or 4. So I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you want me to just briefly address any questions, and then after you vote the warrant, you should assign the warrant articles too. Everybody should be here that has an interest in particular warrant articles, so if you have any questions prior to you needing to vote, I think the folks that you need to know the answers from are all here.
Okay.
So the first one is traditional housekeeping for FY17 budget reconciliations that we talked about, some to obtain flood insurance onto some town properties, and for the water improvements that we've been discussing over the last several weeks as far as the grant and the connection for water at Cohasset and the Well 22 refurbishment. And then to take some of the town's free cash and put it into capital stabilization and the stabilization fund. Those were the recommendations of the financial team.
So on the FEMA one is just reimbursing, it's actually just taking the money that we got the reimbursement on and putting it back into stabilization, although we already did that, so it's really just adding to stabilization. And then the other one is the free cash, that's kind of an arbitrary number that we could increase or decrease.
That's correct.
So does anyone have any thoughts on, the number was what, 3 million about free cash?
3.2 million, yes.
So we're putting about 500,000 into capital stabilization. Obviously, we know we have the capital needs. I guess the thought would be, do we want to make it any higher? But then that's going to fund our capital plan for this year also.
Yeah, I would
so-
wait. I think if something time-sensitive comes, we can do it at the special before the annual in April, but,
Just to talk it through. So
Yeah.
$500,000 seems like a reasonable amount to put in there for the capital needs. It still has to pass at town meeting, any capital project funded through this source, so.
Right.
Seems like a good use of it to me.
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry, Article 2.
Please.
This language is a little different than what you've traditionally seen from the FEMA maps, because generally town meeting does the approval and then the Conservation Commission has the hearing. But because of the deadlines associated with having to have everything in place November 4th, the Conservation Commission needed to have an advertised public hearing, and to do that far enough out, they've already had it. So you've switched it. So we've always, based on Neil Duggan's recommendation about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, the other towns around us, Marshfield and Duxbury in particular, they have these maps as part of their zoning. We do not. And that creates a conflict with building and development in wet areas between the town's floodplain maps and what is included in other towns' zoning. And that's something that the coastal management team has been looking at, and you're going to hear about over the next few months as we get ready for the Springtown meeting. So essentially what this is doing is ratifying and supporting the vote of the Conservation Commission, who adopted the FEMA flood maps as part of their regulations, which the town of Scituate has traditionally had. But obviously, the vote of town meeting solidifies that as an additional commitment to, and for enforcement as well.
So it's not actually just doing the map, it's ratifying the whole regulation, which includes the map.
Well, they're all contained in one, and we refer to them as maps and think of them as a map, but they're accompanied by lots and lots of data and all that stuff so that that comes into play when people come in before the Conservation Commission for wetlands review.
And this language is sufficient to meet the FEMA requirements?
We already have, we sent a certified letter to FEMA after the September 27th conservation meeting, but, and again, this is so that it has the full force and effect of town meeting as well.
Right.
Okay.
And the reason we started doing this 8 years ago is because we didn't think it should just go to a board and committee to adopt it as regs, that the town would adopt it.
And just to reiterate what we've been saying for a couple of years, if we don't adopt this, then we will not get any FEMA money back.
Federal funding, yeah.
And flood insurance rates will go through the roof as well. So it's very important that this passes, so we continue to get FEMA grants, and then we'll look at the next, what's it called, a MO? What do you do?
LOMAR, Letter of Map
LOMAR.
Revision.
Right, so we'll look into
Right.
that after the fact to see if we can adjust the regulations. But at this point, it's very important that we pass this so that our FEMA funding stays intact.
I think you lose your CRS and everything, don't you?
I'm
If we don't-
sorry?
I think you lose your CRS rating as well, if we don't adopt these. I
Well, if you're
believe.
not in the NFIP, then
Right.
it's moot to have a CRS program,
Right.
because that's what it's designed to help us
Right.
reduce the premiums.
Okay.
Article 3 is the high school foyer, and Superintendent McCarthy's here to address that. You have any questions on Article 3 and Article 4?
How you doing, John?
I'm doing well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So the number 4, the well went down from 150 to 100?
Yeah, so when I was here 2 weeks ago, we had talked a little bit about the cost of the well, and we were waiting for another quote to come in. Apparently, must be a lot of people drilling wells this time of year, but we were having a hard time getting a quote. So we got a quote from a well driller. The first one was from a designer, not the actual driller. The person who gave us a quote, company that gave us a quote, came in at approximately $40,000 to drill it's about a 600-foot well into bedrock, 8 inches. They feel that would be sufficient to be able to get enough water out of the ground to water those fields. So that was about $30,000 less than the designer had estimated. He had estimated about $70,000 for that well. And then the second part of that, we also were going to put in 2 underground storage tanks, which were going to basically to sort of collect some rainwater for extra storage. Again, I'm not certain we need that. I think that was auxiliary. Those were $10,000 each, so that's $20,000. So between the $20,000 removing the tanks from the estimate and the $30,000 from the new estimate we got on the well, that is $50,000. So it's $100,000. That allows for project management, design, the well being drilled, connecting to the existing irrigation systems for Cushing and the high school, all the pumps that accompanied with that system, and, soup to nuts, $100,000 with about a $10,000 contingency in the event that we got to go a little bit deeper on that well.
For anybody following or watching, we're actually discussing Article 4 right now. We'll go back to Article 3.
Yeah.
John, who advised you not to include the underground storage tanks?
Well, we talked to a variety of different, there were 2 different kinds of opinions on that. One was the designer said it would be a nice to have, so that's why we included it in the beginning. Talking to the well driller said, what they could find here would be sufficient, and they didn't think we needed the auxiliary. So it was difference of opinion.
And my only other question is,
Yeah.
Kevin and Sean are involved in this, right? Because I just want to make sure, this is a public well, and funding's coming out
Still
of you
here?
just
Yeah,
because of the
yeah.
project.
Yeah.
It's okay, just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
We'll help out any way needed.
Yep.
While we're on that subject, does the water have to be tested so if it was potable, or is it just, we had held to less stringent guidelines just to water the field?
Right. So again, you do have to test the water. Again, we believe it's good enough for that purpose. But again, obviously they're going to have to test it.
Okay.
So.
Because I know they were pretty strict. We had looked into the possibility of using some gray water, and they said no.
No, right, we couldn't do that.
Okay.
And and if you haven't been up to the Cushing Field to see it, it's really looking very nice. But we have now removed our tank, and we're no longer importing water into it, and so we're relying right now on Mother Nature to get us through the rest of the fall. But once spring comes, we need another growing season to get that field ready for play. But it is when it's done, it's probably going to be the nicest grass field we have in town. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to maintain
So
that.
we wouldn't even be digging this well until the springtime?
Theoretically, I mean, if it's awarded, you could potentially get it before spring. If we could get it in by the winter, potentially.
Right.
Again, I don't know how busy people are in the bidding process, and, that it's going to take a little bit of time. We will get close to the winter. But even if we get in March, April, we should still be okay.
So my question is, John, you're mentioning about the water. So we haven't tested to see whether the water quality is good, bad?
Well, you're going to have to drill down pretty far to get that test,
But I'm saying the cost to figure that out.
Yeah.
What if we find out that the water has too much potassium or too much something? If Sean were here, he probably could tell us that you can't use. I don't know whether that's realistic or not. Are we spending all this money before we know whether or not it's usable? That's all. My assumption is it's going to be fine, but I don't want to necessarily be spending $100,000.
Right.
When you find out $30,000 into it, the water's useless, and we'll have to figure some other solution. So
Exactly.
how does that get resolved if that's the case?
Well, I think you have to test before you drill, so you're going to have to, we're going to have to know whether or not we can, and I don't know how far, and maybe Kevin knows more about this, I'm not a well expert, how far you have to go down to test this when you're drilling 600 feet into bedrock to get a well.
Seems like that should be something we should be doing like right away.
Yeah.
At least a test drill.
Yeah.
So we know what
Yeah.
we're looking at.
Well, they're not going to proceed until they get the test results.
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying, but
yes,
don't-
yes.
All I'm saying is
Right.
get the test results now.
Right.
So if
You
we,
need the money to get
Right. Yeah.
if we get pushed to the spring, we don't want to wait for all of that time.
Right, and one of the things that we've talked about is what if this was, pushed off into the annual town meeting in the spring, but then you can't spend the money until July, and then by that time, you've lost that
Dead
growing
fields.
season, and you're in trouble.
That makes sense.
So, we do have a little bit of a, tight window here of time, and, again, as we know what happened, we were all kind of surprised when we put an irrigation system in, and then we couldn't connect it to the town water supply, so, but that's where we are. We are where we are.
And why didn't the irrigation system folks look at a basin?
We did.
On the
We looked
roof?
at both.
All right.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
did we go
the
this
problem
way?
with the roof, number one, is, again, the Cushing roof, you would have had to basically connect to both of the pitched roofs, so you would have had to connect to both sides. There's not a lot of volume up there. I mean, even though it's a, fairly wide building, there's not a lot of volume of water, and then you're still dependent upon rainwater. So in a summer like we just had, you'd lose the field. So you're still taking a gamble. You could spend all of that money on a cistern system and still take a gamble if Mother Nature did not cooperate. So the piece with a well is that you're pretty much going to be guaranteed at 600 feet that you're going to be able to put water on those fields and keep them in the kind of playing condition that you need to. I mean, right now, our fields are deteriorating, particularly at the high school, and they'll get to the point where they're not safe to play on. You need to put water on playing fields. You just have to. You have to take care of them. So, this is an absolute must. The other advantage, too, is that you do pull this off of the town water. You pull the high school off the town water supply. So that's currently on the town water supply right now. So you're pulling that off town water onto a well. So there's got to be some benefit to that.
The only thing I'd repeat is, John mentioned, we put hundreds of thousands of dollars into these fields, and our fields are the worst fields on the South Shore.
Yep.
Our baseball field is almost unplayable, both of them.
Yep.
Those practice fields kids get injured on them because they're just not grown. It is needed down there. If we're gonna, the high school is embarrassed by the state of the fields that they're trying to play on. So it's definitely needed.
This will make a huge difference. It really will.
So I don't know. I'm glad the cost came down.
Yeah.
I don't know that we shouldn't be using some sort of green initiative too to capture that.
I mean, we can, it's another $20,000. It's, it's there. You bury the tanks, you collect the water, I mean, you can do it. And it's a backup, really. But
The other thing is, that we mentioned in the meeting, is there's going to be expansion of fields at the high school, and it's going to be going in the general direction of where that well's going. So you
Correct.
have water for the future fields that are going in there. So
Yeah, if you're doing any fields on the high school, that's where they're going. They're going out back that way. And so
This won't be in the way.
No, it's actually going to be closer to the baseball field. It's going to be down, actually more to the high school. That's where they've done whatever the infrared testing they do, and that's where they found the best, lines where to drill.
Okay.
Thank you for working on the numbers, too.
Yeah, we were just waiting for that second quote, and it came down quite a bit, so.
Do you want me to talk a little bit about Article 3 then?
Sure, the foyer. So the foyer is something we've been talking about for a little while, and the foyer has had an extensive amount of water damage that has been done to that foyer because of the sidewalk that was outside the entrance was pitched back over the years. It tilted back, and it was the water and snow and everything was seeping in underneath the window wall, and the whole thing is rotted on the bottom. So if you look at it, it's all rotted out. It has also gotten under the tiles, which is popped and cracked tiles. So if you were to pull up any of those mats that you see there, underneath there is all cracked tiles. So we basically have to cover everything in there with mats. So what this plan is to basically replace the doors and windows that front the parking lot for the foyer, a brand-new floor, kind of clean up the, that little concession stand and so forth in there, and renovate the restrooms, which are the public restrooms, and they're badly in need of renovation. So.
I think you mentioned insulation also.
Insulation, yeah, because that's freezing in there. So what you're talking about is insulated windows now, so you're going to have windows that will, obviously that's a very cold foyer during the winter time, if you've been in there. So.
And you're fixing the closet over to the right as well?
Yes, we are. We're going to try to repair that and expand into that closet. One of the things we've looked at there, because we'll no longer need chair storage, a lot of the chair storage is in there. And one of the things we've talked about is turning that into a Hall of Fame room.
Nice.
We have been talking with Bill Louette, the athletic director, trying to get a Hall of Fame started here, and actually turn that into a nice Hall of Fame room where, we would have a lot of memorabilia from past Scituate, and, and so that would become an actual room off the foyer.
Good idea. Use the current contractors that are there now. Is that the idea, or what's?
Yeah, what we'd like to try and do is we'd like to try to use, our current people that we have, Doran Whittier Architects. They've already taken a look at it, so that's where this price has come from. They gave us, kind of a ballpark estimate. So we currently have people we're working with right now. So Doran Whittier and Daedalus, they actually helped us on Wampatuck as well when we were doing a little work up there not too long ago. So try to take advantage of the in-house help that we have at the moment to get this done.
And the entrance, the apron to this, the foyer has already been fixed.
It's already been repaired. You got new sidewalk up there, so the whole thing is now tilted back, fixed properly.
Nancy and I
yeah.
saw that the other day.
Yeah, and this whole side, when finished, the parking lot's being redone, is just going to be a real nice entrance to Scituate. That's a public entrance, so you've got the Performing Arts Center, and then you've got the gymnasium, so together, collectively, we might try to, if we can fit it in the budget, do a little metal panel on where those blue tiles are right now on the outside, so the metal panel will match everything else that we're doing with the middle school, so you start to tie in the two buildings even better. And so it could make a really nice entrance, public entrance to Scituate, so.
Nice.
And Nancy, this is capital money
From other school articles.
Okay.
The Cushing and Hadley roofs and the gates,
Yeah.
fire escape, those two projects are done, but they have excess funds in them.
Yeah, we were able to do the roofs at Cushing and Hadley for much less than we had, planned or estimated, simply because we only had to go in and take out those sections of roof that were damaged, that were saturated, and the roofs are clean now, fine, working well, guaranteed for another 10 years. So there was no need. We had priced the possibility of putting brand-new roofs on both buildings. We didn't have to do that. So that's where a lot of this is coming from.
Good.
One more question? Sure. Are you going to come back and see it when it's finished?
Of course.
You're obviously welcome.
Yeah, of course. You don't put this much...
Superintendent McCarthy announced
Yeah.
last night that he's retiring in June,
Yeah.
and we're sad to see you go. You've
Yeah.
done a great job over there.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring it up, so I'd let Tony.
That's all right. It's all publicly now anyway, so...
No.
No.
Well, I know. You seem to be the only one that's informed around here. So.
Yeah, no, it's been a great experience. It's been 5 years now. This will be my 5th year. But for those of you who know me, a lot of things have changed in my lives in those 5 years. I've built a home in South Carolina while living here, and building a home there was tricky.
I'm going there this weekend.
You've been
Well,
out
actually,
this weekend.
my town's being evacuated right now, so I don't know if I'll have a home to go back
You
to
were
there.
thinking that on
Right?
Tuesday.
Yeah, I know. And secondly, both my children have moved to California and taken jobs out there. So my life is scattered. My grandchildren are in California. And I have a house in South Carolina, and my wife and I work here. So it's time to sort of move on to other things. But it's been a great experience. We've done a lot together. I really thank this board. You've been wonderful. Town administration has been great to work with. You deeply care about your schools and your kids, and it's been a great place to work. I've been in some really good places, but I think nothing tops this. So, but we still have a lot to do. So we still have another year to go. But we've done a lot when you look back at it, and that middle school will be something when it's all done. Okay, all right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. So, Article 5.
Can I ask a question before you move?
Sure.
Going back to Article 4, I didn't want to interrupt when you moved to foyer. I was thinking about, my name is Martha Cook, I live at 3 Acorn Street, I'm a member of the Water Resources Committee. We had been hoping that the funding possibility for the field irrigation might include the rainwater capture system. And I realized at this point it may be too late to put that forward for this town meeting, considering how tight things are. I've been told by the facilities people that they actually already own 2 large tanks that were previously used for other things that might possibly be able to be cleaned out to be used if a situation like this was able to move forward. The developer, Dan Dell Construction guy, was telling me that, yes, this is a pretty big roof, and if we'd had anything like normal rain this year, it probably still wouldn't have been enough to start a large field, brand new, that takes a lot of water in the beginning. But once it's established, a combination of well water and stored rainwater might be a really good way to go forward. Our committee is committed to, again, water conservation. I was thinking it was interesting that Larry was here earlier and that you brought up that the town has a great commitment for solar power, wind power, and that we've really done a lot to establish ourselves with a good reputation for being forward-thinking, for being proactive. Obviously, this summer has taught us a lot of important lessons regarding the scarcity of water. I think we want to be really careful before we proceed in digging wells when at the same time we're asking residents to conserve water, and even if they are a well owner, to please not water their grass. I do agree. I mean, I had to learn a lot through this process that I didn't know before about the necessity for really thick, cushy, carpet-like turf to protect athletes. And obviously, that is our common goal here, is nobody wants to see a kid injured on a field that is lumpy and bumpy and got brown spots. But if there is a way to finagle water money from one fund or another, where it's left over from the roof, or if, God forbid, maybe if we're lucky, the well will go in smoothly, the water will test pure. If we're lucky enough that we have some money left over, we would love to see maybe gutters put on the high school, gutters put on Cushing, some way that hopefully it's not too late to even tack this on later, next spring, next summer, next fall, so that I realize we're under the gun. We need to get water secured for that field, for all the fields, as soon as possible. but hopefully, maybe retroactively, we could go back and consider this as an option in the future, just to supplement that.
Right. And to that question, we have 2 tanks. They're old oil tanks that have to be cleaned out and repurposed. It could be done, and you could add it later. I mean, this is something that can be added later. I mean, the design, that original design cost included those tanks. So, you know, we would continue with the possibility of including those tanks in the future. But it's a possibility. There's no guarantee those tanks can be reused, but we believe they can be.
Right. We just hope you'll keep an open mind. It's, again, part of the initiative of just helping move the community forward in terms of a commitment to the ecology. That we realize this might not be the right timing, but we hope you'll just keep it in mind for someday.
All right. Thanks, Martha. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I just want to address Martha. Can your committee, I know there are SWIMMY grants for things like this as well. Maybe we start looking and see if anything will be coming out in the spring.
The deadline for the swimming grant has actually just passed. We have...
For next year?
Yeah.
For fiscal?
The next
Okay.
funding run,
Yep.
which comes out in the spring. We have an application specifically addressing how we can help with the reservoir in terms of increasing capacity, which will benefit the fish ladders, benefit our retention, so that we are able to keep more of the water we do get, which at this point was a higher priority and something that's been in the works, and we've needed this for a long time. We're certainly not opposed to doing that, and I'm sure that it's not just swimming, because it is such a forward-thinking possibility. Right now, mostly it's big sports teams, colleges, schools that have money are the groups that do this, where they collect the rainwater and they use it for the fields. A little out of our league, so to speak. But yeah, we're all interested in doing the research to finding out what other kinds of even awards that might be given after it's done, where we pay for it up front, but we could apply for sort of post grants, where they would say, "Oh, what a great job you did! Here's a prize." So there's always money out there that we can ask for.
Okay. All set?
Oh, there's another question in the back.
Yes.
My name is Becky Mallet. I'm also Vice Chair of the Water Resource Committee. I just want to kind of highlight, I think our thinking and talking about kind of commitment to sustainability and to conservation in the town would be that the well would actually be the first, that the any rainwater catchment would actually be the first kind of line of defense for watering, and then the well would actually act as a backup. There's an example in Wilmington, Massachusetts, so not necessarily fancy lead that is using rainwater to water their fields. They did get a grant, a local watershed grant, which is something we can certainly look into. I think it's spring is the time to think about it, and I'm not sure what the timing is in terms of, I missed the beginning, I apologize. I'm not sure what the timing would be in terms of an add-on project, but the sooner we would do it, would be the better. Capture more rainwater earlier in the season, we'll be able to have a lot more volume to really make a difference. In part of the water conservation plan that we have set forth for the committee, one of our big initiatives is really using town, municipal, larger, higher profile facilities to act as a model to the rest of the town of different ways that people can save water, conserve water, act in a more sustainable way in that area. So we're hopeful that Cushing School could hopefully be a model for residents as well as for the rest of the state and also the region as well.
The only thing I'd add to that is those tanks don't have to go to Cushing. There's 4 other schools that could use water that, I don't think there's irrigation at Jenkins. I don't think there's irrigation at Flannery Field, at Hatherley. So there's other possible uses for that there's other fields that need it, so.
So what would be the right forum or arena to discuss those opportunities?
Good question. There's a field study group. I mean, you guys can look at it independently as the Water Resource Committee. And I would say the school, right? The school.
I mean, we're obviously always interested in putting water in. That's what you need to do to sustain. But just keep in mind that the tanks we're talking about are 10,000 gallon tanks. We were watering to get this field started, 9,000 gallons a day were being pumped into that tank up there. Wow. Yeah, every day. just to get it started. Now, once you get a field started, it doesn't take 9,000 gallons to
third of that.
maintain it.
Right.
Right, so the maintenance is much, much less. But, you know, to start a field,
But if you
And
give the two, now those 2 tanks would have gotten you the 2 full days
Yeah.
to start. Think about maybe they could offset 4 or 5 days a week.
You're talking about steel tanks, aren't you? They're double wall, the ones behind the high school?
Yep.
There's a lifespan to them. If we
Yeah.
bury those in the ground, it's not gonna be a long time, and they're gonna water.
that was
it's
our
gonna-
concern, whether they
Right.
could be even used that long.
Poly tanks, plastic, Kevin would know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
there we go.
I, you know,
Wouldn't be worth it.
I don't think so, because, you know, oil does
They're not
preserve the
meant-
tanks.
Yeah.
Right.
The concept is that going forward, with the addition of potentially new fields, that's something that I think should be a consideration, you know, going forward, to use it for collecting the rainwater from the buildings. I think it makes sense. I think given the timing right now, that's why we're looking at the wells. But I have to tell you, the first option should be the use of whatever storage that we were able to obtain from the rain. And then as a second option, the well. One point which was raised at our last meeting was, in the event that we are in the midst of another drought, you know, the board, you know, they're impacted the way everybody else is impacted in town. Water's not going to be used on the fields, you know, so just so that you understand, it's not the fields are going to be watered nonetheless while people are waiting. It's not going to happen.
And just one other thing that Superintendent McCarthy mentioned was the water that went on that field to start it was not town water, right?
Correct. Came from Hanson.
Yeah.
Town of Hanson.
So we
Was town water,
purchased
but
water.
someone else's.
Right, we bought it, but it was trucked in.
Right.
Right.
Anybody else have anything on that?
Thanks for reversing, sorry about that.
So next we have Article 5, and we have our Harbor Master, Stephen Moan, here to discuss that a little bit. How are you, sir?
How are you this evening?
Good, Steve.
Stephen?
Well, I am praying for the hurricane to go out to sea.
Right, exactly, yeah. Let the hurricane go out, let the rain stay.
We all are.
Yes.
So I think Stephen explained the purpose of this and the cash match at your last meeting, but again, in case you had any additional questions, I wanted to have them available.
Okay.
I understand it's good.
I'm good with it.
There you go.
Just for those watching, if you can go over just the, Nancy, maybe the cash portion again, where the money's coming from?
Sure. So we have a previously approved capital article for granite anchors for $50,000, which was from 2 years ago. This would be an additional $90,500 from waterways retained earnings, which would give us approximately $141,000 as our cash match for the Seaport Economic Development Council next round, which is December, January.
Correct.
Which would make us a shovel-ready project. Right now, what Stephen's hearing from them is that we're not shovel-ready because we don't have our cash match appropriated. And that would, I think, it's what, 80/20?
It's a 75-25.
So that, the 140 would be 25% of the total project cost of just over $700,000.
Wow.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions?
Not about this.
No.
If you just give me 2 minutes while he's here, when we're done.
Sure,
that's
absolutely.
fine.
Go ahead.
I just had a resident call me today to ask me what he should do about his boat, and I said, call you, with this upcoming weather, that's all. Will you be advising the people, as the days go on, what to do
I've been asking, my friends have been calling me and asking me what to do, and...
Call Tim Kelly?
Yeah.
But can they go to you?
My
Can
boat,
we direct people?
I would take it out of the water.
But it was 37 feet, so it's not that easy to take out, so
But it-
just, and he's at one of our town marinas, so...
Yeah, we're down, we're checking dock lines, we're out checking mooring pennants now. We've been doing that for a little while. I would definitely watch the weather. If you could get it out, I would take it out. My boat's out of the water. The season's coming to a close, and whether you take it out today,
About 3 weeks.
or in a week and a half, or 2 weeks from now,
Worth the risk.
I don't think you're gonna get, this weekend's gonna be a washout no matter what you do. No matter what, at least I think so, unless it really goes out to sea or goes in.
But for those, you only have so many boat haulers and so forth, so,
Yeah.
I just, is it okay, we're just gonna have him call, I'll have him.
Yeah, you just have them call me.
All right, thank you.
All right, I was down the ramp today, it wasn't that busy, so
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you,
sir.
Steve.
Appreciate it. Article 6, purchase of property at 0 Edward Foster Road.
So this is the property that we discussed a few weeks ago, small strip of land on the Edward Foster Road side across from the boatworks that would give the town access to the beach there.
Right.
Tricia, can you just explain one thing to me? Do we have a P&S now, right now? Was this locked in at that price to purchase that property? What if,
Yes.
all right,
I mean, it's subject to town meeting approval, but
Right.
that was
You have an
what
agreement.
was
But there's an offer
negotiated,
and all.
and it was accepted
Okay.
after the board determined the price.
yeah, okay, all right. all
Is there
right.
something?
No, I mean, I'm just thinking, not as on the Board of Selectmen, but as a, what if someone were to offer them money between now and town meeting? More money. I don't want to get into a bidding war. This is locked up by, I'm just throwing it out there,
The Doherty family approached the town.
yeah,
We didn't seek this out, and
yeah. No, I'm just asking, yeah, just.
I hope
yeah.
nobody's watching what you just said. Between now and
No,
October
but it's-
19th.
But it's common sense, all right.
Well, it's like any other real estate transaction, there's an offer to purchase, right? There's no P&S yet, so.
That's because it's subject to town meeting
Correct,
approval.
but there's an offer, so the offer's strong.
So the Doherty family approached the town, they made an offer, the town countered, and that offer was accepted.
And so everybody knows this is just it'll allow us to get equipment on and off the beach to do repairs and maintenance and things like that, so.
It's non-buildable. It's
It's an unbuildable lot, yeah, I can look up, we put the maps together today for the advisory committee, and I thought I have it somewhere that I can show you.
We've seen it.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's-
Sean, it's binding right now, it's a binding contract.
Good.
And
All
the
right.
long and short of this, if they were, not that they would, but if there was something like that scenario, it's called specific performance, so they would be subject to us, BMS, so
All right.
we're covered with an executed offer of purchase.
Next, we have Article 7, sale of land.
So really not too much to say on this, because it's the subject of on your agenda a little later.
Right.
But this is where we left it, and so what's going to happen tonight is they're going to come back and see whether or not they've accepted the board's offer. So that amount is where we left it.
Subject to change.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we,
It's a short meeting, hopefully.
Mercifully,
I don't think I've ever seen only 8 articles on a,
well, we had a lot more, but we were able to put them off. And, it's arguable if we didn't need to
Have
do
the
the
FEMA
FEMA maps.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
could have
we
probably
could've probably-
squelched it through, actually,
it
some
all off.
things to the special before the annual. And the last article is by petition regarding transfer of Ellis property to conservation land, and I think the petitioners are here, Mr. Chair.
yep, Tricia Lambert and Andrea Hunt. How are you, ladies?
Thank you. Fine.
So you've all looked at the petition, and you know what we're asking for. I had missed the other meeting that went on at the Selectmen's because I was out of town. I did watch it on the computer. The first thing I want to say is that when I watched that meeting on my computer and looked at it, I was a little dismayed in the fact that the meeting kind of left the agenda that we were actually talking about and went on to other things, and it almost came as a personal affront that we were accusing somebody of doing something wrong. That's not our position. We're not about doing that. We're not in a position to do that. All we are talking about is the 14.2 acres or the 14.5 acres, whichever it is, that is remaining, that has not been built on, that has not been developed, that has not been touched, that is part of the Ellis property that had originally been transferred out of conservation and placed with the school committee. Our group feels that since we have already built this nice middle school over here, that it won't be needed for a middle school. We know that there is a reduction in school population from the students, so that there's talk about possibly combining a couple of our elementary schools. If that's the case, hopefully they could combine them on one of the areas where there is already a school, so that this extra land might not be needed by the school committee. And we just feel that this is the time to move forward and try and get this land back to conservation where it was initially meant to be.
Did the school committee vote on this? Did you? Not at all?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Why not?
They didn't see a need to. They discussed it at...
So they didn't render any opinion on it at all?
They have an opinion, but
Did they render one to you?
They haven't taken an official vote.
Okay.
We came before the school committee
You
and
did. That's kind of my question.
and presented it to them. We've talked with advisory and so forth. Yep, and we went before conservation and spoke with them. Even if the school committee wanted to hold that land for the purpose of a possible school at another time, that land, we feel, is an area that is fragile, not only for the fact that it cannot support its own septic system, that it would have to have sewerage run down Route 3A for it, but if anybody has ever looked at water runoff and nature's own filtration system for water, the water in that particular area comes all the way from the Norwell-Scituate line up by the Mount Hope area. And it comes down through Bound Brook, through the woods, it attaches to Bound Brook, and then comes there, and then flows at an angle across Man Hill. That land is very high water table. It's all silt and clay on ledge. The trees that are growing there are swamp oaks for the most part. There are several other trees as well. But it's a land that really isn't suitable for tearing up and building. Not only is the land not supporting itself, but it's crucial for that filtration system as that land runs down and goes down the hill and out to sea. That's part of nature's way of cleaning water. It's watershed.
It's watershed. So we were asked by advisory to actually draw a map as to where this 14.2 acres was, so we did. And it is adjacent, right next to the police station. And whether you voted for the police complex or not, people are shocked when they drive by there at how many trees have gone. It's amazing. And to see another 14 acres adjacent right next to it actually violates the old master plan that was voted on in town to keep that as green space. If you go out to the maps in the hallway, this whole area is designated as conservation land. Your bylaw also says that you build 100 feet off the road or whatnot, and you're not supposed to build anywhere from Henry Turner Bailey down to here. So when you go back and you read that, we really feel that we're not blaming anybody for doing anything, but we really feel it's time to bring this back to conservation where the Ellis family left it.
Go ahead,
Yeah, just a couple thoughts. First, I think this board supports conservation and has John have been on here the longest. Through CPC, we've bought and purchased, excuse me, good use of the language. How many acres? Somebody must know the number. I mean, just all the land in the West End. So,
500.
I think we're in the same mindset that conservation land is very important. In terms of your comments on the future schools, Superintendent McCarthy can vouch for this. It's like this. You never know. We're going to go down like this, and then we're going to go back, and we've seen schools that we've knocked down and turned into apartments, and then we have to build a new one later.
Turned one into a brewery.
20 minutes ago.
Yes, 3 years ago.
So it's hard to know what's going to go now. Certainly, we don't need them probably in the next decade, but in 30 years, you never know. The other thing is, I think the field study committee just went around, I think there's only 3 pieces of land in Scituate that are over 10 acres, maybe, that are available in space to do anything substantial in this town, and that's one of the pieces. And to think that you're going to do something in that piece of land is not necessarily true, but it is an asset for another piece of land. So for us to put that in conservation right now uses a chip that we may want to use sometime in the future, maybe in 20 years, maybe in 50 years, on a piece of land somewhere else that you can swap. You know, we could swap taking something out of conservation somewhere else and put this land in conservation later, and that would allow us to do some sort of development in the future on a different piece of property. Who knows where it is. So, I mean, that's those are the concerns of mine in terms of putting this land into conservation now, because it's gonna inhibit us from being able to do something way after us in sometime in the future. There's no plans to do anything else on the property that I'm aware of in terms of building anything there. But I understand you're in a butter, you know, that you would have concerns of that. I mean, we just put a fire police station there, which was necessary, you know, to the eye. Excuse me. To the eye, right now, it looks larger than many people may have thought of, but it'll grow back in, and some of that stuff will come down once the development is done. But to take that piece of property and put it in that restriction right now, I think is going to potentially hurt us at some time in the future when we may want to use that for some other purpose, in terms of either putting a school there, which I think is less likely, but maybe swapping it and putting it in conservation another time to use a different piece of property. And then there's also, you know, we have a lot of documentation in terms of what the Ellises really wanted for that property, and there's conflicting opinions in terms of whether they really wanted that to be in conservation. But that's really irrelevant in terms of my thought processes. I just don't think it's a wise decision right now to put that in conservation when sometime in decades later we may regret that. So that's my concern.
My argument to that, Mr. Vignani, is it was in conservation, and you took it out of conservation against Article 97, which we understand the land was appropriated before Article 97, which actually says that a conservation restriction is supposed to be put on conservation land. So Scituate failed to do that. And that's what we're looking for, is to make sure that the land that was protected really is protected, because it does need conservation restrictions, and we know that.
I understand what you want. I get it, and I get where you guys are coming from, that you want it, and I kind of we have to kind of look at it from a bigger picture, a more longer-term picture, in terms of what other future consequences there could be.
And that begs the controversy, because the controversy is and my being in a butter has nothing to do with this. If I had lived elsewhere, I'm far enough behind, so where my house is, I'm actually, I mean, I can hear the noise going on, but I'm a little protected, other than the fact that there might be an issue with water drainage, which we brought up when they were building it, and the engineers did a pretty good job of explaining to me how they were doing swales and so forth to hold that water drainage off down the hill. But going back to what I am hearing from the people in the town, and as you know, I have just recently closed a business, but my business was an opportunity for a lot of people to come in and talk about old times and feelings of the town. And they like the fact that when they come down Route 3A, that it is a green space. They don't want it to look like Cohasset, where there's lots of businesses. There is a small faction of people that would like to see businesses go up there to kind of hold the tax base down. Whether or not that actually would hold the tax base down that far, I don't know. But the point of the matter is, I've just witnessed 2 accidents up in Cohasset in the last 5 days, just when I've been running up doing errands. I don't want that for Scituate. And most of the people that are part of this petition, and I honestly feel that the majority of citizens don't want that either. We like that green space. And beyond the feeling of just wanting to have trees and nature and all of that, it is crucial for the well-being of that water filtration that I spoke of. When I spoke to the state, and I have consulted with 5 different lawyers, 3 of them being conservation specialists, who have all said that this land is should have remained in conservation. That's their lawyer's opinion, and that is the opinion of the people in this petition. We don't feel that it ever should have been moved out of conservation. The fact that it has, we feel now is the time to correct that and do the right thing by putting it back. And I understand that it's 14 acres, and to build a large school, you might want 10 acres. I'm hoping that that could be done someplace else. Maybe we would not have as large a school. Could build a school where the Gates School is now. Again, that is something that if it was not put into housing or a town hall or whatever, you could put another school there. Or you could remodel that and make it into an elementary. There are possibilities to look at in town other than just the Ellis property. And that Ellis property is land that we feel should not be built on, not now, or in 20 years, or in 50 years after I'm dead. That was left to the town, sold to the town, excuse me, for a minimal amount of money for the purpose of conservation, and that's clearly stated in the deed. And wherever the controversy is, I knew the Ellis family. I know the relatives of the Ellis family. They do not want this land built on, and they did not want this land built on. That I can assure you from personal contact. The fact that we have this wonderful new public safety complex, that's a done deal. That's done. That's not what we're arguing at all. But we want to preserve the remaining.
Well, you are, it's just not in this forum. I mean, you wrote the petition for it, so you're the one that's gone to the Attorney General, so we are.
We did not contact the Attorney General. I'm sorry.
Well, whoever you contacted, the guy, regardless, that's not what this is about, but that's part of your concern as well.
Our petition started long before this controversy with the Attorney General started.
Yeah.
And our group had nothing to do with contacting the Attorney General. We were told that the Attorney General had been contacted, so I did speak with the Attorney General's assistant to find out what was going on, because we were already contacting several conservation lawyers, and we had talked to conservationists to walk that land. And I was told that the state had never walked that land before the building was on. So that's what made me start thinking about, because I've lived there my whole life. I played in that land. I knew the Ellis people. I know of things that grow there that...
You live there, right?
Right, that shouldn't be. There's skunk cabbage and lady slippers and certain types of salamanders and box turtles.
So basically, I mean, I've read the petition. I'm basically here to listen. I just don't want this to be a forum for discussion on anything outside of that, especially when there are varying opinions from different attorneys and things like that. I don't want that to get into it tonight at all. So, again, we see the petition, we read it, I understand the points, and I'd like to just leave it at that, actually.
Well, I think this is where we're supposed to talk about this.
No, but I don't want to get into attorneys and opinions and things like that, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's the right forum for that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, as Mrs. Hunt just mentioned, people talk, and people talk, and they say things that may be factual, may not be factual. You mentioned the Greenbelt. That's probably been discussed for
50 years.
50 years, right? And you say only a few people want it. Well, we've had 50, 70 people come to us and say, just as many people you have in your petition, say, knock down the forest and develop it because I want my tax base to go down. So it's hard to judge who wants what. There's not a right answer or a wrong answer. It's all a personal opinion. But, when we say that a few, a small amount of people want this, I don't know. I don't know how many people want it. We only get 15 people to come to this meeting. And, I mean, take that Facebook page, all kinds of falsities are put on that all the time, and people read it and they think it's real. So that's why I think in a forum like this, we've got to get the facts out. Otherwise, people aren't going to
That's,
aren't gonna know
that
what
wasn't my
they're
point.
voting. No,
Tony,
no,
that wasn't my point.
I'm not bringing that down, I don't mean that, I'm just saying.
My point is that, as you say, an attorney has an opinion, we have opinions, there's different things that are, we don't want to get into all of that right here. I'm not an attorney, you know what I mean?
But we do know that when the land was taken from the Ellises, it was left to conservation. And that is very clear in subsection 8C that tells you exactly what it can be used for. The fact that it was moved out of conservation and into the school committee will lead you to believe that maybe you had some faulty information. We're not blaming anybody, but we certainly are under the impression that perhaps that legal advice was probably not in the best interest of the town. And we have been told again by lawyers that, again, a conservation restriction should be placed on every single piece of land that is in conservation. And that's what we're looking for in this. So you won't have an opportunity in 10, 15, 20 years. We would like a conservation restriction placed on all of the Ellis estate, and that is inclusive in the petition. So I think that's important for people to understand as well. We're looking for it to be restricted as it was left.
Right, and people just have to understand, if you do that, then you're taking away a potential use of that land in the future. Not only to develop something there, but to develop something somewhere else. So that's what you need to know. Because 50 years down the road, you may say, gosh, I wish I didn't do that.
And I agree with Tony on that, because we do have limited land. While you did mention all the different school land, again, to his point, there is, quite a bit of fluctuation, especially with the different developments that are in the plan already, right? Up on 3A and whatnot. But we also have to think about how the economy is changing and how healthcare is moving out of the city and into the suburbs. And if we don't have land available to negotiate or trade for future purposes like that, then I think we're doing a disservice to our future generations and not leaving those options open. So I think that's something that I hope you realize that we have to consider as well, beyond conservation efforts, is really preparing for the future as well.
Well, my understanding is that even if it is in conservation, I mean, there's nothing that is the gold standard, so to speak. If it is in conservation and you wanted to swap out land and 50 years down the road we were desperate for a piece of land, it could go to the legislature. And with the legislature approving it and giving a 2/3 vote, you can take land out of conservation and swap out another piece of land for it. But with a conservation restriction, that would force the town to have to do that, rather than just being able to swap it from board to board within the town. And that's what we're asking.
Yeah, we just did that.
What you just said that we may need to do in the future would be inhibited because of this piece of property. There's not another 10-acre piece of land somewhere to swap. I think there's 3 pieces of land that the town owns that's over 10 acres. So if you're taking a swapping, you actually be taking one of our opportunities off the table by putting a restriction on this, to exactly what you just said.
Well, in 50 years, you don't know. You could have somebody else leaving you land. In 50 years, we can't project what's happening in 50 years. But when people do, and that's another thing, at a couple of our town meetings, people have stood up and become very angry, saying, all this proves is that if you want to leave land to the town, don't do it, because they won't abide by your wishes. And I'm not saying that that is the case, but in this particular case, I said in this particular case, that is what people are feeling. And that is saying that because it clearly states in the deed that it was deeded to the town for the purpose of conservation. And I have a copy of that deed.
Other documentation.
I didn't want to get into this other than just saying, long and short of it is this. Respectfully, I disagree. Hold on, let me just finish what I'm saying. I respectfully disagree with your input on it. I think the one thing that I think is unfortunate is suggesting that, putting it in conservation and then making sure that if we ever wanted to take it out of conservation, that instead of having local control by citizens and residents of the town, we now have to go to the legislature and ask a bunch of politicians who are only there, career politicians, to see if they're going to take it out. I'm not willing to do that. Your theory is based upon an interpretation of the deed from 1968 or 69. And it's premised upon not Article 97, because that did not come into existence until subsequent. And that's the interpretation that is being debated. You can get attorneys who can say, this is my interpretation of it, and others will say the same. And that's a case that's going to have to be dealt with, presumably, going up. Litigation, interpretation, decisions by the appellate court, and then probably Supreme Judicial Court. But I don't, shall we say, belie you in trying to place this property back into conservation. I agree with Tony. I think the reality of it is that prior town boards and prior townspeople have gone over this article, or a suggested article similar, placing it, or replacing it back into conservation, and the town folks at the times have said no. This is the third time it's coming up to town meeting, I think, or fourth.
Well, they were waiting for a school.
So the point of the matter is that, I think the reality is, and I know that the documentation that the town has shows that the Eldises had suggested, I forgot if it was a school, I know a hospital was one of them, and, and it wasn't for a minor amount. It was negotiated over a course of time because they had a fiduciary duty to the heirs at law. And that's what they negotiated. And I disagree with you, Ms. Lambert, about town council. Town council, who represented this town for over, I think, 20-plus years, is well-known. And in fact, I think, Ms. Hunt, your husband actually put on Facebook how he was a very smart attorney. And I don't think it's fair now to turn around because finding out what his opinion is that you disagree with it. He did represent the town well over that time period. And I
Nobody
think,
said he wasn't a smart attorney, but at that particular time...
The suggestion was that, it was bad advice by an attorney in town. That's what I think Ms. Lambert said earlier. And all I'm saying is, he was a good man, from my understanding, and well-respected in the legal community, and especially locally. So I think it's just fair to say that, you've done your due diligence, you've gone forward, you put an article together, it's respected, that's what the whole process is about, and, you've explained your position on it. I disagree with it, I said respectfully, and, I think at this point, you're going to town meeting, and that's where it goes.
We'll see what the people have to say.
And
That's what it's all about.
I don't want you to feel that we're slamming town council. At that particular time, when it was before Article 97 came in, and when Article 97 came in, not everybody was as versed with it as they are now. And our understanding, after a lot of research, is that this Article 97 holds the same rules even for land that was transferred before Article 97 came in. So, that's the question. And of course, anybody can disagree or not. And that's where it is, and that's why we're asking this to come to a vote. So, we'll see at the town meeting.
So the only thing that I'd like to add is that it's a non-binding vote. So it's...
And why is that a non-binding vote?
I could try and explain it, but Tricia, if you fill in the blanks when I mess up.
It's because
Because it's not in our purview to make that decision on that land, because it's in the school committees, it's in the school department's possession, control.
Well, and also because, isn't it because the case law in the state states
Right,
that a
so
legislative body can't
it's a
compel the executive body on how to disperse
So
funds
if
and
the
things like
article
that.
passed at town meeting, nothing would happen because the school committee would still have to vote to declare it surplus. It's a
Right.
two-step process.
Okay, right. And from what little research I have done on that, was that as long as there are no plans on the books at the particular time of the vote, that the vote would still stand until such time that they gave that up. But unless there are plans to develop that land as the time of the vote, then it could still be binding.
I'm not going to comment on that because that is not the town's understanding.
Okay.
But I would caution both parties to make sure that it's fairly represented at town meeting of what the correct process is, and I
Is on
would
that.
respectfully disagree.
Okay?
And that's the whole point here, is to get all the information out there. And
Correctly.
make sure it's the correct information, and let people decide, their opinion with all the true facts.
All righty.
Any questions from the audience, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, does anybody in the audience have any questions or anything to add? No? Anybody else? No. No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That completes the articles for the, when do we select them?
So you're going to do a motion to vote the articles on the warrant, and then right after that, you get to assign the warrant articles.
There was a motion.
So we're just voting to put them on the warrant right now?
Yes.
Yeah. You can do them in its totality, 1 through 8.
So move the Board of Selectmen approve the warrant for the October 19th special town meeting contingent upon further changes by town council and/or town administrator.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay.
Thanks, John.
Take care, John.
Good night. So you have one other item under town meeting, Mr. Chair, relative to the Greenbush proposal.
Yes, I was looking at that.
I think you may want to table that until you do your open session meeting with those folks.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was actually curious as to why it was
Right,
there
and
anyway.
then, right, so it's sort of a little bit like we just talked about. You would have to declare the land surplus and no longer used for an intended purpose for which the land was acquired.
Okay.
And then that enables you to enter into selling the land and presenting it to town meeting.
Gotcha.
Okay. Essentially, if the school committee were to do this relative to the Ellis, this is the exact same process they would follow, just so it's interesting that you're doing it to declare it surplus because it's no longer going to be used for its original purpose.
Right.
And I think Lorraine provided you on the attachment with the motions. There's 2 separate motions.
Yep. I did see that. It's in like purple or something.
Do you need it? Do you have it?
We're in executive. So we're going into executive session at some point at 9:45, Mr. Chair, and then thereafter coming back out. And then
Then you can do it then, right?
at that point, if we're so inclined, then we'd move that motion, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I got you.
All right, so we're looking at sign articles right now?
Unless you want to take them all.
I was going to take FEMA, Article 2, and I could take 1 as well to open up town meeting, but...
1, 2, and 8 you got?
What? No, you're so well-versed on 8, I'd love to see you do that one.
No, I'm sorry. Just, so Marty's 1
1
and 2?
I'll do 3 and 4.
Sean wants 5, right?
Sure.
You probably know more about that than any of us.
Okay.
And then 6 and 7 are the land acquisitions?
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Mark?
Fine, I'll do 7. Wait, who's doing 8?
I'll do 8.
You're gonna do it, you're gonna do 8?
I'll
So
take
Marty,
8.
do 6 and 7.
Take 8.
So I can do 6.
That's worth
I'm not
all
going to
7.
cherry pick like the chair. I'll take 8.
Hey, I remember the days when,
So I just want to read it back for folks. Articles 1 and 2, Mr. O'Toole, 3 and 4, Mr. Vignani, number 5, Mr. Harris, 6 and 7, Ms. Curran, 8, Mr. Dennehy.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll take, thank you.
So you'll, for your packet, on the 18th, you'll have an updated selected background information that we've been working. I'll probably get that out a little early, and then Lorraine will have the other stuff.
earlier than the 18th, maybe, like... Or we
You'll
just-
have the updated selected
just do a
background
cram
and the motions.
course?
The moderator's meeting is October 10th. Marty, I
Okay.
didn't know if you can make that or not.
I should be able to...
It's in the afternoon. Is it 3
Yeah, if
or
it's
4?
afternoon, as long as it's not midday or something.
I think it might be at 4, but anyway.
It's like 4 o'clock or something?
It's at 3 or 4. I can check. Hold on.
Okay.
You talk to Rich and maybe kind of set it up.
That's a holiday, right?
The 10th?
Yeah, that's Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Monday?
Yeah.
Monday.
Don't listen to me. 13th.
It shouldn't be that.
The 13th.
It shouldn't be.
I'm just saying the 10th's a holiday, that's all.
No, it is, but it shouldn't be.
Hold on.
I'm saying-
You know what? I will get you the date before the end of the meeting. I don't want to give you bad info. Okay?
I'm working anyway, so...
You won't be open, right? Aren't they closed the 10th?
What?
All right.
3 on the 13th?
I cherry-picked.
3 on the 12th?
Wise guy.
Jerry C.
The reason we're having a special town meeting is for Article 2.
I'll take one.
Okay. 3 o'clock on the 12th.
3 o'clock on the 12th?
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
That work for the town moderator?
The moderator picked this date and was asking for the warrant, and I said, we haven't voted it yet, so he was ahead of the curve this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 o'clock on the 12th. Should be a great meeting. Okay. All right, so we're running a little behind, huh? So we're going to move on to a discussion vote of the town council appointment? How do we want to open that up? One of you guys?
Do you want to start, or just, I mean, we talked about it at our last meeting. I mean, we interviewed
Yeah, I mean, I
6
can
firms
certainly
and-
start.
Sure.
We interviewed a lot of good firms. I'm not sure where everybody is really at, but, I mean, my personal feeling, and I wanted to pass it on to anybody else, is my feeling would be to stay with the firm we have now, give them the opportunity to carry the ball forward, and if it doesn't work out, we always would have our number 2, in line, as who I have somebody else that was a very close second. And that, my feeling would be to give them the opportunity to just, to perform as they've been performing. I do wish Brandon had been in here for a little bit of time, before Jim actually retired from the town council position, but my feeling is, again, just to stay where we are now and give them the opportunity to keep performing as they've been doing. So, that's my piece.
Sure. It was a great process. For me, it came down to 2 firms, so still haven't really decided. I'll see how our discussion goes this evening. But for me, I really liked Myers and Harrington, smaller firm. They only represent 7 other towns. They had a really great resume, very highly educated, and for me, they had a lot of unique positions and documentation within their response with regards to development and host community laws, and I think that's a particular area for us in our town, that I would love to see some nice, unique, proactive advice. That's the feeling that I got from them. I also liked their personalities. I thought they fit well with our town, and I like the size. I really am not a fan of any of the other applicants. While they're all very good firms, I thought there were some strengths and weaknesses that were pretty evident during the interview process. So for me, it's between Myers and Harrington, as well as Murphy, Hesse, and Toomey, because I think, I haven't heard that I think they've served us well. I'm fine if we want to remain loyal to them and have them continue. So for me, those are my top 2 choices or recommendations for us to consider.
I'll go last.
Okay. John? Mr. Denny?
I'll go second last.
Oh, Tony, we're down to you.
I'll go after Sean. So the process was a long process. I thought it was done very well. We talked to 6 firms. 3 stood out to me, and they really differed, I guess, a lot of different things. But one was big, one was medium, one was small. That stood out to me. And I think they all had their own strengths. And the other 3 firms were very good, too. It was a tough decision. The larger one was KP, what do they call it? KP Law?
Yep.
Copeland and Page of the past. And, their strengths were that they're big, and they've got a lot of resources to rely on. And the attorneys were very good attorneys. We've had Barbara as a town counsel in the past, probably, 15 years ago or something. She did a good job here. So I thought that one stuck out to me. if we had any issue, that they'd be able to get resources to support us in any unique situations we had. And then the other side of that was, would you get the attention that you would get in a smaller firm? Like you mentioned, the Harrington, is it, how do you pronounce it?
Mayaris.
Is it Mayaris?
Mayaris.
Yeah.
And Harrington, that was a really small boutique firm that stuck with me a little bit. I liked the people. I think we'd get a lot of attention from them because they only had 7 or 8 other customers. They had some background in some of the environmental stuff that we're doing, and really felt that it was a good fit on those lines. And then we have, Jim Toomey's firm, that's kind of in the middle there size-wise. And I agree with Marty on a lot of, they really haven't done anything wrong, and they've done a good job. The reason we did this whole thing is Jim Toomey's been town council for, is it 5 years? 10 years? Yeah. And he's leaving. So it's 9 years. And he's leaving, and it gave us kind of the opportunity to re-look at our situation, because he's been so close to the town and really handled things on his own. So those are my 3 thoughts on it, and I think, I don't know either, as Morris said. I don't know which path to go in. I think they all have their strengths. It depends on how the rest of the board really wants. And really, the town administrator, too, she deals with them on a day-to-day basis, we don't. Where the direction of the town is, where the problems are going to be, and what strengths we think we'll need in the future.
I'll go next, John, because you're the expert. This is your expertise. I was talking to Mar earlier, so some people might say, well, why'd you, besides if they didn't know Jim was retiring, well, why'd you go look? Well, maybe we looked because we wanted to see if there was a better fit out there. And I, for one, agree with, I think it was Mar, or Marty, you said it earlier, the 2 stuck out to me. The current firm that we have now, as well as the Myers Harrington firm. I just would probably lean towards the firm that we have now for the coming up to speed, learning the issues. Not that we have that much going on, but probably lean towards staying with them. I put myself in their position, if I was them, and so, here I am servicing an account, and someone calls me on the carpet, and I said, I better put my A team together from here on in, because they could very well do this again. So, hey, do we put them on notice? Maybe. They were all good firms, but we could, they had some tough competition there, so we could look left or we could look right if they don't serve us or future board members very well. Second time we've done this in 20 years. So it's not like we're jumping from firm to firm every year. So when we do it, I would like to think we get their attention.
Well, and to your point, if we do stay with Murphy and Hess, what this process really helps us do is look to see some strengths in other firms that maybe we see may possibly have been missing. So can use that as a consultative approach back to Murphy and Hesse to say, hey, there were some components that we saw and that were presented to us from this firm, whether it's their philosophy, the way they address the different issues that come up, and maybe their proactiveness on different issues. Just please be mindful of that moving forward. It's a way in which to
Yeah, I just want to add one thing
of one into another.
what I was saying too is, so with Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, the idea is that Jim is still, he won't be town council, but he's still a member of the firm, so I feel good about that as well. And he does live in Scituate, which is another help. And these are all things that just, it's ironic that we've all, at least with the 3 of us, I didn't want to say who the other firm was, but we all have the same 2 firms. And it really came down to that, to the 2 of them, So, Mr. Danahy.
Well, I liked 4 of the 6. I felt the first was inexperienced. I thought the third that we interviewed was very arrogant and frankly was not a good fit for the town to begin with. I did like the second one on the first day, and that was with Myers and Harrington. It's a small firm, boutique firm, generally dealing with attorneys who solely deal with that area of law. Municipal law is a very large area, covers a lot of components, but in this day and age, you tend to have to be specialized, at least if you're going to be doing municipal law. You're dealing with zoning, you're dealing with potentially labor, you're dealing with buying and selling, takings, opinions, representing the town, knowing an open meeting and figuring out is there a violation or not, or also dealing with town meeting itself with the procedures and the protocols. I thought they said a few things that I thought were really good from my vantage point in practicing law that I liked. And it was, I forget his name, but Attorney Harrington, seemed very, very knowledgeable. He's been doing this for 30-plus years and is a wealth of information. The downside was the proposed town council. While she had been involved as her town council for a number of years, she has not represented any other towns, and she recently joined the firm, I think, about 3 years prior. That's not a negative, because I think she comes from a different field of litigation, which was very evident to me, which is a good thing. But I just thought to myself, maybe if this were 5 or 6 years down the road, that would be a better fit for us potentially. So that was my only knock on that. The next firm I liked was J. Tellerman, that's Blattman, Brabowski, and Mead and Tellerman. I liked them the first time we interviewed them 9 years ago. They came up with a concept of billing, which is instead of doing it on an hourly basis, you could actually do it on like a one-time fee is what you generally pay throughout the course of the year. And then what would happen is, no matter what the issue was, they would be here or deal with the issue without doing a billable hours, which is generally what happens in the practice of law. What was interesting is that Maez and Harrington have actually taken that as an approach. So I think Tallerman's firm was onto something 9 years ago, and I think it was kind of intriguing. As I said, Brobowski has written the book, the treatise, the Bible, so to speak, on land use law here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they're well versed in the area, and they too are a boutique firm, just like Myers and Harrington. KP, which is Koppelman and Page, town used to have that for at least 20 years. So they had them in the 80s, and we had it all the way up until 2000, and I think 9 or 8. 9.
End of 7.
Well, it was the end of 7, okay.
Yes.
That's when we did the interviewing for him. I was new to the board at that time, and that we went through it. I have to say, prior to that, there was about 2.5 years or a year and a half that there was a lot of, just how we say, conflict, and a lot of issues were going around, and the representation I don't think was really that good. The reason is it was a large firm. And I think what happened is they cover over 150 or 200, I'm not sure what the number was at the time, of municipalities and towns and cities throughout the Commonwealth. And when you get to that size, you become more of a number and you don't become an individual. And so we ended up and opted to leave them. I think one of the reasons why is because Barbara St. Andre, who was the lead attorney who was interviewing for the town with us, had left about a year and a half earlier and had gone to a smaller firm, none of which we interviewed, but she was there. I've dealt with Barbara. She was the representative for the Board of the Zoning Board of Appeals. She was at town meeting. She did a phenomenal job. I have nothing but the utmost respect with her. So that when she came and interviewed with Joel, and I forgot his last name, Tricia, you know him from back when you were out in the western part of the state, I was impressed. I was impressed with him. But the nagging feeling of a big law firm looking at you as a number troubled me. And although that's a negative, it can also be a positive because they have a wealth of information they can draw from other cases. There's only so many things that you can happen in town municipal life that they've represented, they've dealt with, and they've got a treasure trove, a library, and they're not reinventing the wheel, so to speak, on the events. But I went back to, obviously, the final one, which is Murphy, Hess, Toomey, and Lehane. They've been representing us now for 9 years. And during that time period, I've not had anything to complain about. Jim has done a phenomenal job for the town, represented the town. I think he probably had an interest because he lives here in town. But I will say, since Jim kind of slowly stepping into the sunlight and the twilight of his legal career, we've been well represented by the people he has hired, the people who have represented the segment, of that law firm. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 7 individuals. I don't think it was 9. It was 7 or 9, one of the two. And what I mean by that is they're a mid-sized firm of about 30 attorneys, but 7 of which deal with municipal law and have been doing it because Jim has been doing it for 35, 40 years. And he's groomed these people. And I look at the Doherty decision, which was a case that the town had appealed, went all the way up to the Supreme Judicial Court, and was won by Brandon Moss, who is the attorney who represented the lead attorney, who would be town council. I was impressed. There have been some other issues that have come up throughout their tenure, and Brandon has represented the town, representing us. And at this point, I have nothing negative to say about it. And, you know, there's always one thing I always say to people, is that if you have a good attorney who you respect and who you like, that's great. There's no sense changing. It's only when you have bad representation that you should consider somebody else, because there are a lot of good attorneys out there. And in this case, I kind of come back to this and saying, they've done a good job. I have no issues with them. So why bother changing and trying to figure out we want to go somewhere else? I will say the other 3 are good. But my feeling comes back to staying with Murphy, Hess, Toomey, and Lehane. Again, it's not a mark against any of the other firms. If they were not a part of the application or not one of the ones seeking it, then I do have a second that I'd be willing to go for. But I think given what we've seen, what they've done, and what I believe they're going to continue to do, they're representing the town well, and I'm inclined to go with, you know, staying the course, as George Bush would say. But I think it's well worth it, and they've done a good job. And when you look at the cost, they reduced our attorney's fees significantly over the course of the years. So from what we were paying to K&P or Copeland and Page. Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
What kind of term are we looking at?
The town council has an indefinite term under the town charter.
So we can hire them for a year, or we can keep them
I'm just
in
looking at
Yeah,
the
you
motion.
can
2 years
change
or
it.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's always up for renegotiation every year if you don't like them.
Okay.
I mean, even if they had a term, John, you know this, you deserve to have the best representation you want as a client, so it's not binding. So you can change at any time. But there's 2 appointments under the charter that are indefinite, and town council's one of them.
So do we do a nomination then, or how do we want to proceed with this?
Well, it's a question for John, because it sort of begs the question that they already are your town council, so you need to do nothing if you're not changing. But since that decision was made by board members who weren't here back in 2007, I think you would just you could entertain a motion.
Right.
And go from
Question.
there.
If we don't change, does their current contract stay under, as opposed to the one they presented to us?
That's absolutely on the table for negotiation.
So I would suggest we,
I'd want to review it, because the
Yeah,
thing is, in order for them to
yeah.
change their fees, they have to give you a lead time of, I believe, a year. So if they were thinking of changing their fee structure, they'd have to give us notice and say in the future, because they can't just automatically do it.
Right, right. I mean, you could still have them as town council, and they could come to you in 2 months later and say, we're raising our fee.
But it will take effect
yeah.
like 12 months later.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. In other
Yeah.
words, if they decide to do that, which I suspect they probably won't.
Well, their fee has changed considerably for newer communities they've acquired since they came. We are enjoying a good rate from them because they've been with us.
Nomination of,
I think,
Or we leave it?
I think we got to figure that out before we say we make
oh, would it hurt to do it anyway? No. Just, we're staying the course? Well, we don't even, I mean, we're assuming, we've all said that, so we need a nomination, we see if that carries.
Well, how about this? I move that the Board of Selectmen continue to utilize the law firm of Murphy, Hess, Toomey, and Lehane as Situate's legal counsel, period.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
those? Unanimous? Yes. You were slow.
I think so.
I know what you're asking, though, and I'll follow up on it.
Yep. I get what you're saying, too.
Well, thank you, that was a great process, and I think we have a lot of great information on other resources.
So we're skipping the
Made a
GATRA.
motion, so it wouldn't. So it didn't say change, it said
Continue. And, you know, it wasn't, that's because we have new board members, that's all. From when we, well, you weren't here, were you? When we first did it?
No, I don't think so. I think it was advisory.
Yeah, so it's just Sean and I, that's all.
Okay, so,
What's
next
the
we're going to
one?
move on to a discussion of vote of the Phase 1 wayfinding sign locations, Laura Harbottle and Colin McNeese.
Mr. Chair, are we
Gatra?
discussing GATRA tonight?
No, GATRA has been changed, rescheduled to 10/18. I thought I told everybody, oh, you were late, I'm sorry.
But there's some folks in the audience that are here for GATRA, so
Oh,
we should
really?
advise them
Okay,
too,
so,
yes.
actually, I should have said that at the beginning of the meeting. At GATRA, Frank Gay could not make it this evening, so it's been rescheduled to Selectmen's meeting on 10/18.
I'm going to vent for 2 seconds. We've been trying to get this done for like 6 months.
He's not here. He
I
couldn't make
know.
it.
It's like,
I didn't
gosh,
know
this-
why.
Just, all I know is I was told before the meeting it was rescheduled.
why can't we just tell him we want to do it? And he doesn't have to wait 2 more weeks?
I know, why does he have to come before us?
So the reason is that there's a proposal to extend, actually to create another loop in addition to the existing loop, if I'm not mistaken,
To North Situate?
into North Situate to Lincoln Park.
Well, they're
What's that?
adjusting it a little bit, too.
So it's
Right.
It's
it's
adjusted.
less loops, but a longer loop, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Actually, we don't even
And
know.
less
We have to
trips.
talk to him.
His representative, he can't come to the next meeting either, but he's sending his representative so we can finalize this, just so you know.
Okay.
So, Lorraine, what is it? Is it less loops, but the loop's going to go out to North Situate now?
There's
That's the
two things.
original.
One is an ADA route. I really don't know, because I haven't
That's
been
it.
involved in negotiations.
I mean,
Two different routes. One's to meet the ADA compliance, if I may chime in, Mr. Chair, excuse me for being late.
please.
Thank you. I did meet with Linda Hayes and Frank Gay while Tricia was at her conference last week. And the other route, which is the one going into North Situate, would meet the ADA requirements, that the federal requirements for ADA, and would be called a deviated route. And that would mean that while they were on the route, it would loop into North Situate, so rather than a half-hour loop that they were doing now, it would be an hour loop. And that would give them up to 2 to 3 times when they could be called off. So a person would call a dispatch phone number, not the council name, but a dispatch center, and they could go off route if they were within that 3/4 mile radius, that shaded area, go pick them up wherever they are, their house, one would assume, bring them back to the route. So they won't take them to a doctor's appointment, but they'll bring them back to the route. So it would make it available to more people, and then they would continue on the loop.
But can you explain, so we have the regular loop now.
We have the regular route now, and what we were dealing with was the issue is that this is a federally mandated, federally funded program, and we needed to move to the ADA.
So is it ever going to drive to North Situate if they don't get a call?
It would always loop up there.
Always?
If the Board of Selectmen decided to go with that option, the deviated route option, it would then loop up into North Situate. and go
Every
up.
time?
Yeah.
And it takes an extra hour to get there and back?
Well, the hour loop would allow it then to go off.
For pickups.
It would allow them to do pickups in between times.
It's not saying that there would be pickups every time, but it would give them the opportunity to do so.
Within this radius, they can go on.
But they still stay on their schedule, so
Yeah.
begs the question, so what are they, if there's no pickups, what do they do? Are they just hanging around somewhere?
And I don't know if they have actual scheduled times now, or where they actually arrive somewhere, or just that they...
Well, now they do. Right now they do. They're like within a minute, because I've taken it a few times, and
So this is
they're
the route
like,
that
they're
they-
right on schedule.
This wasn't a
No,
route
they're
they
on
originally
time.
had planned for Scituate, and then they
Right.
realized this was an opportunity that Frank wanted to bring forward to the board.
Because we had asked initially, when they started, to include North Situate, Lincoln Park, that area, in the run,
And I
so.
think that's why Frank wanted to come before you, and since he couldn't come tonight, he wanted to at least have someone else come before you, just to give better
To explain
explanation for questions like that, so what would happen.
Maybe I can just meet with him if he has time, and just bring it all back, you know?
Go up 3.
Just what the whole idea of it is, if he can't make it to the meeting.
He'll be at the October 18th.
Come back.
He will be?
An
His
associate.
representative.
Associate.
Okay.
That's all right. That's good.
It's fine.
Right,
Sure, as long as he explains it the same way.
Because if you want to go this way, it takes longer.
I said, well, she have the authority to make all the decisions and present to the board, and he said yes.
Good, that's all we need, perfect. Okay, we're going to move on now to the discussion vote of the Phase 1 wayfinding sign locations. Laura Harbottle and Colin McNeese from the Economic Development Commission.
Try and set up the laptop too.
Sure.
Not about you, just...
Of course it is.
Sure it's about me. Sure it's Nate.
No, it's not about you.
It's not about me either? Oh, shoot. Should have had him set up while we were talking.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting, can we jump ahead and maybe do, like, discuss new business, board appointments?
Maybe we could put the appointments off till next meeting?
And while we're waiting for them to set up, we're gonna do our appointments right now anyway, and then, I mean, if you're certainly welcome to stay.
Okay.
But if you wanted to leave, so...
I'll move Ann McCracken, is that correct? To the Scituate Beach Commission for a term of 3 years or until a replacement can be found.
Second?
A successor.
Second by Ms. Curran. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Ann. So, Lorraine, she could probably see you to get what she needs to do as far as...
We will email your
Go through these right now.
appointment letter
She gets sworn in and all.
to the town clerk and get appointed and go through the process, and we'll let Nancy Fay.
Want to do these wine and malt wine?
Yes, yeah.
Sure, yeah, whatever we can do, because by the time, that may or may not work, you know?
Okay, should approve and let you know.
Any motions?
Yeah.
Yep, please.
By the end of the week.
I want to make sure Lorraine's paying attention.
We're going to do the motions for
We're going to do the,
Just
we're
some
going to go
one
through
days?
the 1 days, real quick, Lorraine, to get those out of the way,
Yep, I got them right here.
okay? Motion?
I don't have them in front of me.
I'll move a one-day wine and malt license to Hospitable Hostess for a function at the Scituate Maritime Center on October 9th, 2016, from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. for a baptism reception.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
I move a one-day wine and malt license to Hospitable Hostess at the Scituate Beach Association for October 14th, 2016, from 6:30 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. for the Wampatuck PTO event.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I further move a one-day wine and malt license to Hospitable Hostess at the Lucky Finn on October 29th, 2016, from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. for a bridal shower.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move Silent Chef for an event at the Scituate Maritime Center on October 18th, 2016, from 4 o'clock p.m. until 10 p.m. for a business event.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else we can do? Probably.
Approve the minutes, or?
Can we do the minutes? Yeah. Sure. Approval of the meeting minutes?
What date is it?
It was...
Move the board second approve the meeting minutes for September 6th, 2016,
Second.
and the September 6th executive session meeting minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Everybody good? All those in favor?
Discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
Lorraine, are we releasing these executive session minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Mr. Vignani?
Yep.
And second by Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Thank you, sorry about that.
We have all the pictures in our packet, we saw the whole.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
don't worry about it.
It works only, I don't know, half the time, no matter whose computer it is.
We're prepared to bypass.
It worked.
All right. I'm sure they look nice on the screen.
That's in the packet, they have that.
Yeah, we have.
The color.
Yeah, this one's
It's a nice color.
color-coded, so it makes a little bit more sense as to what's going where.
All right, perfect.
Oh, good. I'm going to save that. Thank you, Laura.
What is cow energy?
What?
It's manure.
Did you see it on this thing?
It's manure.
Cow power.
Thank you, Laura. You digress easily.
Hydro, cow power.
I can imagine.
So, you think so?
Did you ever see the movie Thunderdome? You know, where the pigs power it? That's what it is, it's cow power.
Got enough cows and yolks walking.
Okay.
2 men enter, 1 man leave. Sorry. All right, go ahead.
How are you this evening?
Thank you. Colin McNeeson, Vice Chairman of the Economic Development Commission. Thank you for your time. We are here again just to update you and answer some questions on Phase 1 of the wayfinding project. This is a component of the larger community branding effort. We were here last year with the logo and the basic design. We've proceeded into applying that to a wayfinding signage program, both for directional signage in town, identifying buildings, and some of the villages that we have throughout the community. We have, I think last time we presented the general specification for the signs, and you had asked for where exactly would we intend to place these. And we have in Phase 1, 14 locations for a variety, for 3 types of signage. And they're identified on the map, and we provided a color copy tonight so it's a little clearer to see. Between the 3 types of signs, we have building signs for such locations as the library, what is now the Scituate Harbor Community Building, Pier 44's building there, and the public safety complex going up on 3A, and Town Hall here. And we also have the village signs for North Scituate, for the harbor, both on the north and south ends of the harbor, and for Greenbush. And then interspersed throughout that will be the directional signage, pointing traffic to those various locations, primarily where they're spotted to the harbor district, to the lighthouse particularly, and then where the village, basically destination signage would pick them up. And so the idea is to guide traffic, kind of direct people to the resources that are in town and kind of highlight the fact that these things exist when they're passing by on 3A. We do have phases, later phases, Phases 2 and probably a third, to continue to implement this and look into, we've made some preliminary inquiries into 3A signage, but that's a different issue. We wanted to get the ball moving now and get this out there. So that's how Phase 1 is basically designed. And, we wanted to give you the opportunity to ask any questions about those locations and how the implementation would move. And Laura, I don't know if you have anything to add. We have a specifications package. I believe we're prepared to bid that out, or we?
Yeah, we definitely are. We've gone around and taken some photographs of exactly where the signs would go, so you can see the locations if you wanted to really zero in on them. We also went before the Traffic Rules Committee, and I went out with Sean McCarthy, the engineer, the town engineer, so that, he could help make sure that there weren't any traffic conflicts or visibility problems for your average person driving. So we thought of all those things, and we were trying to direct people to some of the main sites in town. This is really only a beginning, but at the major intersections, we'd sort of help people get to the next intersection and help people not get lost that are coming here.
Would we be able to remove any signs? Probably not, right?
You mean the old ones?
Yeah, the old ones that might, and I can't think of any, but it would be nice if we could. I mean, these are going to be nice looking, and if...
Well, I think with the Cole Parkway ones,
okay,
definitely.
Well, right, for signage, for parking signage.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a specification for, I forget what we were calling them, but restricted signage. Well, there's gateway signage, there's welcome signage to villages, but there's also basically general restrictive signage. Parking is permitted here, parking's not permitted there. That uses the logo. And really just to identify that parking exists. As if you were coming down Front Street, there would be something like the Scituate logo with a P on it that can be used, and that could be customized a little bit more for something that we needed. And that was part of the idea of what Faberman Design provided to us, is what he refers to as a kit of parts. It gives us, standard color palette, a font,
and we can kind of pick and choose those pieces for different types of signage. Because we have those smaller kind of parking signs, we have the large, village welcome signs, there are directional signage. The directional signage we anticipate in Phase 1 is more of the visual with the logo. There is a specification for more just directional arrows that would just have a destination name and nothing else. But Phase 1 it's partly intended to initiate the community branding effort, and that's why we're looking for those first introductory wayfinding signages to also include the logo design.
I was trying to think of it'd be a very difficult task, but to try and direct people into Hummerock, but that'd be very difficult. Any thought given to that at all?
Yeah, a lot. Actually, we always
it's a tough one.
We tend to focus on the three villages and the harbor particularly because of what's already there.
We should at least
but-
have one on the other side of the bridge that says, "Welcome to Hummerock," shouldn't we?
Exactly, yeah.
We could get
Yeah,
one there.
we certainly could.
know
Maybe
we're
not
going
directing
to
them, but at
eventually.
least certainly, yeah.
The difficulty with the Hummerock location is to pull them off of your main traffic route, it's 3A. So that's where you're getting into the 3A intricacies that we basically have pushed off to Phase 2.
The only thing, Colin, I would probably say is, even though I get what you're saying, I would want, I think it would be prudent if we were to have a sign literally.
Just before the.
Do we own the bridge?
Like, there should be
We
a
own the
welcome.
bridge, I think.
To the middle of it, don't we?
Yeah, I think.
I'm not sure. I think we own the whole bridge, don't we?
You could put it
I think
right
it's
when
right
you
to the
get
middle.
over.
Yeah. I think we should put a welcome sign there. I mean, I understand the
I
whole
think it's right down the
wayfinding.
Oh, we don't own.
I would like to. I have no objection to that at
We
all.
don't, that's
Well, when I-
that's state property.
What I'm saying is, in other words, we'll find out, but I'm saying ideally is, I think we own, for example, we own all the way over on the North River to Marshfield, because we were incorporated before, and that Martown line, I thought was like to.
So the bridge
to
is a state bridge.
there. The
Right.
bridge itself is
But
state
where's
bridge,
the
but I'm
line,
saying the
John's
line.
question is?
So I was curious.
So the line would be,
Sign in the middle.
no, the line would be in the middle of the bridge.
Yeah, you're not going to
Right.
put it in the middle of the.
Because we
more
share, we share
Marshfield
the
PE.
dredging and the water rights right there.
The only reason why I mention that is because if you put it immediately after the bridge, it can get lost if you put it right there. My point is, you need to put one for the village, only because if
Certainly
Greenbush
start
is
with
getting it,
Yeah.
Front Street's getting it, North Situate's getting it, people in Humrock are going to feel again that they're the stepchild that are not getting it.
Certainly, at least if they have a sign, entering.
We can certainly, in Humrock,
Yes.
Right when you get over the
certainly
C
do.
Street Bridge
Right,
and
exactly.
Julian's, well,
That's-
two, really, Julian and C Street.
Yeah.
Or start with C Street, more pop.
Yeah.
That, I would strongly recommend that, that's all.
I second that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I got a few questions. So, Colin, one of the things, like, I look at North Situate, and I see that there's one that's going to be downtown in the village, which is denoting the village welcome sign.
Yeah.
Was there any thought of giving, like, okay, why don't we do at least 4 or 5, so that one you'd have from Country Way from Cohasset coming in, somewhere around Mordecai, Lincoln, another one on Country Way heading north before Booth Hill, maybe, or you could put it at Booth Hill. Booth Hill was the 5th one.
Yep.
And then one on either side, one on Gannett from Minot. People were coming from that general direction, as well as from Bailey, Bailey?
Bailey's Causeway.
It's not Causeway, no, what's it, Henry Turner Bailey. In other words, so you put it around,
Right.
instead
You
of just
capture
putting
every-
one, and capture all the routes.
Thought given to it, yes. It's largely been a budget issue.
Okay.
And that's why it's also phased, Phase 1, Phase 2. It's not just concerns about trying to navigate logistics of any signage on 3A, because ideally, we'd like to put something on 3A directing you to
Yeah.
North Situate Village. That's your primary capture. So between both logistical issues and then just budget issues, we were looking at a Phase 1 launch to get the branding out there.
Yeah.
The other side of that, I would also caution a little bit about saturation and losing the effect of the signage, and that's partly why there's a second level of directional signage that is simply it's like an arrow.
Yep.
And that may be maybe a secondary element introduced to some of those other pathways.
Because I was just thinking the same with Greenbush.
Right.
And obviously, Front Street's a little easier because it's bottlenecked for the most
Yeah,
part.
but
I
Stock,
was just
coming down
curious.
Stockbridge and
Stockbridge.
Country Way the other way, right.
Now you got me thinking, because you mentioned that, and this is a little beyond the scope. The Chamber of Commerce with their billboard,
3A, yeah.
Has EDC attempted to contact them to think about trying to figure out maybe putting a...
We've had numerous discussions and several meetings about that. They own that billboard.
Right.
When we started this effort, our position was basically, we would like to develop the design, the community brand, and come up with an application of that design to that billboard.
Yep.
And with the idea that we'll finance and fund the design effort. If it's your sign, you'll build that out. And we've had a lot of discussions about that. They are looking at a design that doesn't necessarily match. We're looking at, they're trying to maximize some of the advertising opportunities for their membership, which is...
That's been going on since I was the
difficult
chairman
to do.
of the Chamber of Commerce, which they haven't done.
It's a big sign, too. It's a
very
It's an expensive effort
proposition.
to do something that large. And it's also, you run into trying to balance advertising space for a large membership against something that you're driving by at 40 miles an hour and has to be large. It doesn't really, I mean, you can put a lot on there, but it's going to be useless. And that's a tough thing to design around.
My other question was, and I know, Laura, I think it's a picture of you, the sign is going to be placed in front of the Welcome, Scituate Harbor Welcome, and that's the north, so I guess it would be across from, right on the pier. Is there, I guess my thought is, does that seem to be, you say saturation, kind of like a mixture of, now you got two different signs. You have the wooden one, or the one that's not actually carved, but, you know, the one that we did about
That's the one
8
that
years
bothers
ago.
me, too.
And then you have the sign right next to it. It just seems like maybe it's just too...
Oh, it would be
dense.
replacing the old wooden one, because one of the wooden ones got...
Stolen or...
Yeah, it basically got wrecked by a snowplow.
Oh, okay, so you're going to remove that one?
It was replaced, and then it got, rammed by a snowplow in that last really bad winter. So those would be going, and these would be replacing them.
That's such a
Looks
nice
like there's a
sign
very
behind it,
nice one
though.
right behind it.
Yeah, so you're going to replace that one that you're standing in front of with the Scituate Harbor Welcome? Is
Yeah,
that what your plan is?
Wooden one, the kind of ornate carved one.
Right.
Front of the pier.
Would not be
Might
there anymore.
suggest...
Can't you just move our new branding just over to the left more, or just not there, so we can
and keep
keep
the other
that?
one?
I don't know, I just think it's
Or you
nice
could
piece
just
of
keep
work.
them there.
I might suggest, because I
Then
think
you
there's
lose the
some,
brand a little bit.
certainly discussion that I've heard about how it would be nice to have hand-carved signs, of which I know, although Paul's on your wayfinding, so I mean, he'd know better than I. But I know this was not by Paul, this was somebody out of town, but the signs, I think, are kind of nice when they evoke that feeling of, going downtown, and the signage. I mean, I remember the charrette from 2001 or 2 talked about making the signs. Not that this is a bad thing, it's just, this is the wayfinder to get there. I would think you'd not want to block a sign that, potentially, this is a great location for a hand-carved sign, in my mind. Okay, perfect. The C Scituate would be better to be placed it further up Beaver Dam, maybe slightly, maybe near the Inn at Scituate, where the sign, the cultural district is, or something.
Right, and actually, as to other signage, that is, we had, Cultural District Advance was a little further advanced than this effort, so they were required to put a sign up.
Right.
So we didn't have the opportunity to really integrate this into it, but that's a good location.
Right. And I know that then you get busy because now you get saturation. What? You're driving down. But I think it would be poor to put it in front. I can imagine
There
the
may be-
complaints that
Or do we
everybody's
just
going to have.
forego a sign there? Why do we have to duplicate it since we've
Put that
got one
one
on the
on.
other end, and then just keep this custom one
Yeah.
here, instead of having so much sign noise? If
Put
you-
that one in Hummerock. Don't put it in front of the wooden sign.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, there was never, ever any intent to keep both of them. It was just to have one of them.
They're going to pull the other one up.
We were going to pull the other
pier?
one up.
Yeah.
Cedar Point.
But I guess people are really used to that one, and they
Well,
like
Cedar
it,
Point, you have a
so,
similar situation.
Yeah.
See it, right here? Nice hand-carved sign.
Which one?
Cedar Point, the Turner Jericho.
Yeah, Cedar Point was similar
You
to
can't
that.
pull that sign.
No, it's beautiful.
That's
No,
actually
that's
hand-carved.
not, I don't know if that necessarily has to come out,
Okay.
but I think what you can see is,
That's going out towards Cedar on Lighthouse.
it has an arrow on it, I've never noticed it before until I looked at this picture.
Oh, yeah, it does.
And that's the point of directional signage. This is wayfinding signage that's integrating a community branding effort. So, in this image, there are website designs that have been put forth. There are other branding efforts that are intended to integrate this logo, and putting that throughout the community is important. There are, I'm sure, ways to balance the two.
Okay.
Yeah, or to put them in a slightly different location, so you're not looking at both at the same time.
Right. Okay, good.
And they're different purposes. One's telling you, one's just a landmark.
And I think, they're structurally different. Both of these wooden signs are horizontal in their design nature, and you have another vertical view. I think we can probably make that work, particularly on Front Street on the north end where it curves. There are several opportunities to capture that sort of visual take as you're coming down the roadway.
Yeah.
So, and for this wayfinding, we've got 14 locations, right, around town. Is that what we can expect to see as the maximum amount in this design, and then you'll go to that secondary design with the
Phase 2?
smaller? Yeah, with Phase 2, or are we going to see more of these?
Phase 2 would include a lot of, with similar
More of these?
signage, but it would start implementing some other secondary aspects. I mean, a lot of Phase 2 is really hoping to get some signage on 3A, but that's another effort.
What about beaches? That's another thought. I was thinking with the beach committee, of trying to point to.
Well, I think similar to the parking.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
And we talked about the fact that this kit of parts can be applied in a lot of different ways. It can be applied to beach signage, or parking signage, a lot of different applications.
What are these signs made out of? Are they metal?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are specified to be metal.
You need us to vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we'd like the endorsement to proceed with Phase 1.
If you want to add it in the...
Want a motion? I have one. Are you ready?
Yes, including them.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, please.
I want the clerk to read it.
Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the locations of Phase 1 of the proposed wayfinding sign program as shown on the maps and in photos provided by the EDC with some of the adjustments that we made to Hummerock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dennehy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks for all
job,
the
thank you
work.
for all your work. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, before, I'm going to mention about my meeting with you folks 2 weeks ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
So I'll mention the Greenbush Driftway and stuff, so I just want to let you know.
That's a fun.
To other business.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to a discussion of the sale of land, Greenbush Development. Mike Travellini. How are you this evening, Mike?
Doing well, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So I just wanted to provide you with a quick update from our last meeting. We brought the proposal that the board made last time about the payment. The proposal was $225,000 or 13.3%, whichever was higher. The MBTA is fine with that proposal and will agree to it. So, we're happy that we were able to reach agreement on that. And we look forward to moving forward on that subject. Wanted to also update you and let you know that today we did designate a developer, and that developer is the Drew Company. Drew is offering the smaller, or proposing the smaller development. It's about 70 units with about 18,000 square feet of retail space. This was a longer process than we thought it was going to take, but we just, after consultation with the town and reviewing the zoning bylaws, we thought that this was just a permittable project and something that had an opportunity to get done, and that was really more towards what the town was looking for. So we have designated them. We will be sending out a designation letter by the end of this week. and then, executing that and supporting them during the permitting process, and obviously working with the town during the permitting process as well, to ensure something happens.
Can I ask you a quick, I may have been looking at the pictures when you said, so the other group, what happened with their plan? Did you say the reason why theirs was?
So, the other group, they did submit the plan. We asked for zoning clarification. In the end, after consultation with the town, there were a lot of red flags raised about the scope of their project. And the question of whether they needed a variance or not, based on what they submitted, wasn't really clear. And we felt with the timetable that we were working with in terms of executing this disposition, and the history of the site itself with the Conroy deal that fell apart, we wanted to be really sure that something was permittable and something that could move forward here. So there was just a concern on our end, I think, that project was just not going to
It was so huge. I mean, to be able to downsize that, it'd be not impossible, but.
Right. I mean, there was.
Couldn't imagine how they could do it.
Yeah, there was. There was a lot of things that needed to be addressed, and there just wasn't time really to address them all.
The problem with this development is it's just like every other development that's going up in this town.
Sure.
So this site is ideal for some sort of more commercial usage than what this plan is going to do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's minimal retail space in it.
Right.
It's got 70 units next to a train station.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, it's not the final design plan. I mean, they obviously still
You don't have any input on what the final design is.
We don't, but they have to go, obviously, through the regular permitting process, and the town will definitely have its say. And during these processes, a lot of times that we've seen plans change, I wouldn't say dramatically, but there's been significant changes, from obviously the beginning of the permitting process.
Yeah, I mean, we can't tell them what to build.
Right.
But, I guess I'm a little bit disappointed that
We lost a lot of retail.
we lost, and this is a key commercial area in town.
Sure.
And to put, what is there, 18,000 square feet? I mean, really, some ground floor, it looks like most of it is this rotunda that's a grocery store, I don't even know what it is. It's not big enough for a grocery store.
Sure, yeah. More convenience, yeah.
And then, what's 10,000 square feet, so what's that, 10 small offices? 1,000, nothing big anyways.
Sure.
So, it's a predominantly residential, it's just 5 other condo buildings that are going up somewhere.
Right.
So, Mike, can you convey to them, though, that we would like, as opposed to the offices, there's a possibility to switch that out for more retail?
Yeah, we can absolutely convey that
I
to
think
them.
if they did a ROI or whatever, it would show that that's,
Yep.
we've already had a study done about what kind of retail would be successful there.
Sure.
That the EDC did. So,
Yep.
and they're here now, so, I mean, I think that would be something, if it is flexible.
Yeah, we're going to be hosting bi-weekly meetings with the developer right after we execute the designation letter, and that's something that we can convey immediately and let them know. And certainly, if you want to make that study available, or if we can pull it from somewhere to show it to them, we'd be more than
Yeah,
happy
I
to
can
pass
send it to you
on.
tomorrow, Laura, just send me the link again. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, are you
that's
doing
great.
that after you designate it, or before?
So, yeah, we're going to designate, but we're going to kick off bi-weekly meetings with the developer right when we execute a designation letter. And in that, we can convey, begin to convey to them the town's thoughts, and again, they can sort of take those into consideration, when they're submitting plans to the town.
So here's the question that I have, because we have town meeting in 2 weeks.
Right.
And so, people are going to say, what, if we sell the land, what is it going to look like?
Right.
So are you suggesting we use that schematic, not, conceptual design that they originally submitted, that Tony was referring to?
As of right now, I would, but we can, I can reach out tomorrow and I can convey that as early as tomorrow and see if they have time. It would have to be the Thursday before the 19th, correct? That
Yep,
everything would have to
yep.
be see if they have time.
Cut it down, better than some departments.
But, and see if there's, if that's a realistic timetable for them to get something, modified and,
Or if it's amorphous, like you say, then, they could communicate that, there is the opportunity for other kinds of retail or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have this
So,
article?
that's something that will definitely be conveyed to them.
Okay.
Like, I asked the question last time you were here, and I forget what the answer was.
Sure.
At what point are you, is this sale contingent on building permits and?
So, yeah, it's going to be contingent on the developer to getting their permits. We'll execute our purchase and sale agreement, but we're not closing until everything is permitted.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
So we go in executive session and talk about it, is that?
Nope,
No,
you
it's
don't
not
have
necessary.
to.
Have to,
Yeah,
because
numbers
they
are the
accepted
same.
our proposal.
We're going to be back the 19th, I believe.
Town meeting's the 19th, the
Okay.
selectmen meet on the 18th, but does Mike need to come back?
If you can send us
An
the,
updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be important.
Okay. We'll get that over to you.
or even, if they can't redraw it, at least.
Then an explanation.
Their intent to,
Yeah.
I think they're going to need,
that's their
they're going to, here's what I envision, is that, obviously, this is schematic of what they think could be dealt
Right.
with. And like any plan, it's just the first draft, and I'm sure,
Exactly.
it can be modified, it can be
library.
beautified. The difficulty is, when this goes to town meeting, people are going to see it and say, that's it, I don't like it,
Right,
and let's put a
right.
kibosh to it.
Absolutely.
The reality is that there's a lot of potential. The EDC did this future vision plan gateway to Greenbush, which is a great draft, kind of what could happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to, it just
Right.
gives like a map of where it should go.
Sure.
And as Tony had mentioned, this location is prime location for at least some kind of retail on the first floor, potentially business on the second, and certainly, depending on the views and the elevations, you're going to get some good views of the North River. So I could see residential being
Sure.
top floor. And I think ideally, if they had a better look, potential look of it. People in town want development that are going to be affordable.
Right.
And I hate saying that word because usually people think it's low income, but
Right.
affordable being that people can afford it. The second thing is the density. It's going to be local, it's going to be down near the train station, the hub. And I think this is a gateway, it's a thoroughfare for Greenbush. And Greenbush, people are going to want to know, what's the vision of this developer? Clearly, the first one was not a vision for the town of Scituate, and
Right.
I think we could all agree to that. If people could see it on TV, you'd be amazed. It does not fit. But if they come up with something, it's going to be easy for us to be able to articulate and be able to explain why this is a win-win all the way around because of density for elderly, people who just want to downsize, affordability, location.
Yep.
It's a part of the whole overlay district, it's a part of the master plan, with some retail. It's a rejuvenation, if you will, of an area that was blighted, that turned into an impervious parking lot that had no use whatsoever. So
Right.
if they can come up with some kind of slight vision.
Yeah.
And I know it's a rendering
Right.
of what they're proposing potentially. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Very helpful. Helpful to them, not just us.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
key, Mike.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're in agreement there. All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Appreciate it.
We have to make a vote, don't we, or do we? Do we make a motion? We got to make something.
No,
Yeah, you already.
you're all
We
set?
did it before. All right, well, good.
so we don't have to agree on it, or?
No, because
Oh, 'cause
you
that's-
have to go to town meeting.
Good.
We already agreed on it.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Mike,
you.
thank you again. Good work.
We agreed on the number.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. But you do need to vote on the other piece, because that
On this
Lorraine,
piece,
Lorraine
removing-
gave you the, yeah,
We need a motion for that, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on.
That's to put it to town meeting, correct?
No, that's to declare it surplus and that you no
Oh,
longer need the
yes.
land for its intended purpose.
All right. I move the clerk should read it, but I'll read it. I move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 15, that the land is no longer required for public purposes.
That's what, separate
Second.
vote.
Second.
Yeah.
By Mr. Vignani. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. second motion.
I further move that the board vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15A, that the land owned by the town on parcel ID 53-2-11 and recorded in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 4091, page 733, and its confirmatory deed referenced at Book 4091, page 726, is no longer needed for its original purpose of solid waste disposal, sewage treatment and disposal, municipal buildings, public parking, and recreation as stated in the order of taking recorded in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 4091, page 726, and further move that pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 16, declare the land available for disposition.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran.
Second. So, one quick question. On this property, are they getting sewer?
We just said, by that motion, just said we don't need it as a,
No,
you know.
when you originally did the taking, you took it for all those potential purposes. Now you're declaring you're not going to use it for any of those potential purposes, and so it's available to sell.
Right, but,
Nothing to do with where.
so we haven't given them sewer,
No.
but they're gonna be,
No, if
Assumption.
they'll need to do a sewer connection and pay and all that, just like any other development would.
and there is sewer
Right in front of
Yeah,
it.
right in front
right
of
there, yep.
And they're allowed to.
So, we gotta, just processing. So that's 80 units?
70.
But I was thinking the same thing a couple of minutes ago. I mean, you know, they could do a project with or without a sliver, you know, would it be smaller? You know, so
That's why.
But these are gonna be 70 units that aren't going to North Situate.
that's right.
Right, and that's another reason for retail, because you have less strain on the sewer system.
Could,
And
depends
water.
what it is.
Right,
Unless it's a restaurant.
yeah, right.
Laundromat.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Okay. What do we have left? Other business, we have any correspondence? I didn't-
We do, we have two letters from FEMA just reminding us. One was dated on September 22nd that we received, just reminding us that we need to vote on the acceptance of the FEMA maps, so it was just a reminder, and we're
And
well
we did that,
within-
we sent them the
Yep.
certified, yep.
And we're well within the date, so that is good. And then the second one, again, was just talking about Loma issue for property located on 59 Ocean Street, which is shown on the NFIP map. Based on their review and the submittal of the data, they do not agree with the Loma, from what I read here. Do you want me to read the whole letter? I mean, I just don't think.
I've
that
read
I
the
can
whole thing already, it's just, no.
But
It was just a
basically
finding.
saying that it was a finding that they didn't agree with it, but after the maps are accepted, that we could go through, that property could go through the
Revision.
LOMR process to appeal, yeah.
Right.
So just to let folks know that
Perfect.
they can still pursue it.
Okay. Anybody have anything?
Yeah, I have two things. First, I was going to say, I was at the EDC, Economic Development Committee's meeting about a week and a half ago, and I was with Tricia, I think, 4 months ago on the same one.
I was in Missouri last week, so.
No, 4 months ago when we went,
Yeah,
and they were talking
it
about
was in-
the potential, what could be done with North Situate. So I went to the most recent meeting, and they were talking about what could be done in Greenbush. And this was their future vision plan, which is really informative as what could happen potentially for development all over Greenbush. And fascinating. And then, they were talking about potentially as a gateway coming into Driftway, what could be done to make it better, working its way down. And I have to say, they asked whether or not they could come to the board. I said, absolutely. I think it would be great to have them at a future date to kind of show their presentation. I think for North Situate would be great, as well as even Greenbush. So sooner than later, I know we got some busy items coming up in the next meeting or two, but I think at some point before we get to the budget, it'd be nice to have a little presentation to see at least one or two to show you what they've been working on.
Well, and to your point, planning board should see that, as this developer goes through the permitting process, we want to make sure our vision is all
On the same
in
page.
line, on the same page.
I was thinking it might have been a nice thing for him to see, to bring that back to them, to get an idea what
Well,
we could be looking at.
we can do that.
Yeah, we can, and
Say, this is what we have, if this is helpful. I mean.
so the last thing I was going to say is, so when I'm standing out in the hallway on the issue that I recused myself on because my office is across the street from where the school's going to be supposedly moved, I guess. Is that what you guys approved it? All right. I was looking at the board about the Public Works, and I saw this photograph that's up there, and I know you can't see it on TV. This is fascinating. This is a seawall that shows you just the structure, that this thing is gigantic. You know, they talk about the cost, the huge cost per cubic foot, 5,000, 6,000, and you can see why. There's a ton of cement. They go down at least a good 15 feet into the earth before it starts coming up and around. It just really shows you the size and scale of these walls and why they're so significant. So I just thought it was really fascinating. It'd be nice, as not more work, but it'd be nice to put it up on our webpage to show people, because I'm like, this is really incredible.
And that's a difficult job, Oceanside, because the proximity to the home.
Yeah.
It's amazing how close it is to the house.
I think
There's not a lot of working room there.
No, that's Oceanside right there.
Think the technology has changed since the 30s?
Probably not. It's just probably the same, you know?
Probably changed a lot.
I don't know.
Yeah, we can put them up.
But anyway, I just thought that was fascinating. So, that's it, Mr. Chair, and nothing else?
I do. Lorraine brought to my attention as well, as I spoke to Chief Murphy. Chief Murphy has created a great magnet that folks can acquire this week. There are some volunteers that will be going out to homes along the coastline, starting on Thursday and Friday, and knocking on doors and giving them out, which is a great idea. But they are also available at Dad's, at the general store. They're available at the post office and at Sands End in Hummerock, as well as in the Marshfield package store right across the street from the Bridgeway Inn. So it's some great information, especially with Hurricane Matthew that's bearing down on us possibly. So thank you, Chief, and the disaster and the emergency prepared
Sands
group that put this together. It's great, and lots of information here, so get your magnet. It's a good job, so thank you. Other than that, I don't think I have anything. I'm good.
Sure.
I was just going to say that Nancy and I toured the middle school, what, a week ago, Nancy?
Yeah.
And 2 hours later, it was, yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was fascinating. You know, I know a little bit about construction, so I was pretty impressed. They were in no hurry to rush us through any part of the way. If we had questions, they more than answered them. There were a couple of people, Pete and Shane, were bringing us around. It's something this town's going to be proud of. Not only that, we got all done, we went in the auditorium, and even what used to be the electrical switch room, the building out back. So they didn't miss a thing. They were in no hurry, very enthusiastic about the project. You know, it's just great. It's pretty exciting. It's and they were, you know, I'm sure if you guys want to go, they will come back anytime.
How close are they? When are they due to finish the auditorium?
Auditorium,
right after the
They have a soft opening in late December, maybe, but it may get pushed up to January.
Point is that our annual town meeting could be held, is going to be held there, right? April.
Potentially.
Yes, right.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what the access to the site would be, so
Yeah.
that would be the only thing that would preclude that.
Well, by April, it'd be pretty close, because I bet it'd be on.
The
Yeah.
total project won't be done until July of 17.
And they're
And people can hear us.
on target.
It won't be
I mean,
raining.
that's a few months away.
Just the amount of brick that's gone up on that facade since Sean and I toured it last week is remarkable.
What's funny, I was in DPW earlier, and I was looking out, and the masons were working at like 5:45 still.
At
Up
night,
top,
right?
yeah.
Right. And they didn't skip anything. We went on the roof, we went everywhere, so it was really pretty,
Should be hard, Hannah.
I did. It's a good thing I did. Right, Nancy?
Bolt fall or something?
No, walking down.
Bump into something?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But that's a story for another day. But no, it was very good. I was very impressed. Yep. That's all I have. Thanks, Tony.
Went to a field resource meeting last week, and I think they're going to present, I know they're presenting to the rec commission, or rec committee, and at some point they'll show us, but they've done some great work on the fields and the opportunities there, and gives us a good overview of what lands out there and what different communities, or different groups are thinking about needing, so that'll be good to reevaluate that, I would guess, after a special town meeting. And what else do I have? Little sports. You guys anxious to hear the sports report? So, the girls' soccer team.
We miss it.
Ranked 16 in the state, little town of Scituate, with their 3 captains injured, seniors.
Oh.
Yes. Yuha, Pender, and Shesky all unfortunately injured, but the team's doing great. Boys' football team won their 4th game, 4-0 so far this year. They're doing great. They play Hanover, I think, on Friday night in Hanover. Boys' soccer and golf are also doing great. Tough to see the golf team, but you can go to the football games. Kids are free, and if you play in the football programs, you're there for free, so go out and support your team. John can say all that too. He's at all the games watching his son play.
Yep.
Yes. I don't have anything, so. Can I have a motion for?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks.